In the heart of the desert, buried beneath centuries of silence, lie secrets too vast for time to erase. For over 5,000 years, the sands of Egypt have guarded something more than gold, more than tombs, more than kings. Beneath the gaze of ancient gods and crumbling stone, whispers persist, of knowledge lost, rituals hidden, and civilizations older than history dares admit. Who built the earliest temples before the pharaohs ever rose? Why do some structures defy the tools and logic of their age? And what power moved entire cities to align with stars that ruled not just the sky, but perhaps the soul? This is not just about pyramids or mummies. It's about the shadowy threads connecting astronomy, sacred geometry, and forgotten science. It's about the strange anomalies, the inexplicable relics, and the questions archaeologists still struggle to answer. Prepare to journey beyond textbooks and tourist maps, into chambers never opened, theories never proven, and mysteries never fully told. So sit back, relax, and let's dive deeper into the mystery as we uncover over 3 hours of unknown ancient Egypt, where history fades and legend begins. Deep in the sandstone cliffs of Abydos, where the ancient Nile once surged with greater force and purpose, lies one of Egypt's most enigmatic temples, Seti III's temple, a monument to a forgotten age, preserved in relative obscurity. The walls here are worn by centuries of wind and reverence. Each block seems to breathe with stories too old to trace. The carvings are intricate, precise, and often astonishing. But among the sacred hieroglyphs and traditional motifs, there exists a single panel, tucked high in a hypostyle hall, that defies everything we think we know about ancient Egyptian art. To the trained eye, it appears out of place. To the untrained, it is unmistakable. The carving, etched into a rectangular lintel, appears to depict objects eerily similar to modern flying machines. A helicopter, a submarine-like vessel, even what resembles a futuristic aircraft. The lines are not vague, they are not random. They carry a structure, a symmetry that suggests intentionality. This has come to be known in fringe circles as the helicopter hieroglyph. At first glance, the implications are staggering. How could a civilization that existed over 3,000 years ago, with no known advanced technology, have possibly carved such images? And if they didn't, how did these shapes come to exist so precisely on a wall designed by the priest architects of one of Egypt's most sacred sites? Most Egyptologists will pause here, not in fear of what it implies, but in caution. They offer a different explanation, one grounded in the evolution of language, the layering of inscriptions, and the endless restructuring of monuments over time. The dominant theory suggests that this mysterious carving is the result of a process known as palimpsest, where older inscriptions are chiseled away and replaced with new ones. In the case of Abydos, Seti III's original hieroglyphs were supposedly overwritten by his son, Ramesses II. Over the centuries, erosion and partial collapse of both layers resulted in a strange merging of symbols. According to this explanation, what appears to be a helicopter is, in fact, a coincidental superimposition of two distinct texts. It is a logical answer. It is a comforting one. And yet, it feels incomplete. The strangeness lies in the precision of the forms. Why do these overlaid images produce such distinctly recognizable shapes to our modern eyes? Can the layering of two unrelated hieroglyphs truly result in something that so closely resembles mechanical technology? Or is this a case of pareidolia, the human tendency to find familiar patterns in ambiguous data? Skeptics argue that the helicopter is nothing more than a fortunate accident, a visual illusion born of erosion and imagination. But even within the academic community, there's acknowledgement of the rarity of such a phenomenon. Few, if any, other palimpsests in ancient Egypt have created images this evocative, this precise. Others point to context. The Temple of Seti. I was no ordinary structure. It was built as a spiritual center of resurrection, a place of immense symbolic importance where the ancient gods were honored through rites few living today can comprehend. Seti's temple houses the famed Abydos king list, an inscription that mysteriously omits certain rulers, like the female pharaoh Hatshepsut and the so-called heretic king Akhenaten. These omissions have long puzzled scholars. Were they political erasures or something more? Abydos has long been associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife and cosmic rebirth. In myth, Osiris traveled beyond the stars after death, ruling a realm beyond Earth. Could it be, as some suggest, that these carvings represent not just accidents of time, but intentional messages, artifacts left for future generations to decipher? Could they represent a symbolic or mythological memory of skyboats, as referenced in some of the pyramid texts? More speculative theories reach further still. Ancient astronaut proponents argue that the carvings are echoes of a forgotten truth, that extraterrestrial visitors, mistaken as gods, once shared knowledge with early human civilizations. These theorists suggest that the shapes are not symbolic, but literal, representations of machines witnessed by ancient eyes and immortalized in stone. It's a theory long marginalized, yet persistent, feeding off the visual evidence and the sheer mystery of how such carvings could exist. And then there are the questions we can't fully answer. Why was this particular section of the wall carved, erased, and recarved in such a conspicuous location? Why did the resulting composite hieroglyphs survive so intact when others did not? And why do similar motifs appear in other parts of the ancient world? Stone figures in Colombia resembling astronauts, carved wheels in India's Ajanta caves that predate the invention of the wheel as we know it. As the sun shifts over Abydos, the shadows return to the carvings. They seem to breathe with a quiet defiance, as though mocking the certainty with which we interpret them. The helicopter, the plane, the vessel, they remain where they have always been, etched silently into stone, waiting. It is tempting to declare a mystery solved, or to dismiss it as coincidence. But the deeper one looks, the harder it becomes to draw the line between erosion and intention, between accident and legacy. Perhaps we are not meant to fully understand these carvings. Perhaps their purpose is to provoke questions, to challenge our assumptions about the limits of the ancient world. Or perhaps they are remnants of something truly lost. A civilization more advanced than we remember. A story older than Egypt itself. A glimpse into a reality we have yet to rediscover. And so, the helicopter hieroglyph remains, not explained, not dismissed, but suspended in the realm of the unexplained. What else might be carved into walls, hidden in forgotten corridors, or buried beneath layers of time, just waiting to be seen? What other truths might we overlook simply because we've convinced ourselves they shouldn't exist? The heat of the desert lingers over Giza like a veil, thick, unyielding, and ancient. Beneath the rolling dunes and buzzing tourist paths, one monument towers over time itself. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, once sheathed in gleaming white limestone, still dominates the horizon as if daring the modern world to decipher its purpose. But for all its visibility, its sheer scale and global fame, what lies inside and beneath this timeless giant remains a subject of debate, of wonder, and of mystery. Rising nearly 480 feet in its original form, the Great Pyramid is the largest of the three pyramids at Giza, and perhaps the most studied structure in the ancient world. Its corridors and chambers, painstakingly aligned with celestial bodies, have inspired centuries of speculation. Inside, the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber, and the enigmatic Grand Gallery stretch out with a mathematical precision unmatched by most modern structures. The sheer engineering sophistication continues to astonish architects, engineers, and archaeologists alike. And yet, for all the study, all the measurements, and all the theories, there is still something the pyramid may be hiding. In 2017, using a non-invasive technology known as muon tomography, particle detectors that capture the behavior of cosmic rays, scientists made a startling discovery. Above the Grand Gallery, in the heart of the pyramid, lay a previously unknown void. This was not a crack or a misreading, but a space, deliberately constructed or naturally formed, stretching at least 30 meters in length. It was later named the Big Void. But if the void above has sparked curiosity, then the lesser-known potential of a hidden chamber beneath the pyramid has ignited something else entirely: a quiet, growing fascination with what the ancient builders might have concealed far below the surface. From early excavation reports to modern geophysical scans, hints of subterranean spaces beneath the Great Pyramid have persisted like echoes through time. Napoleon scholars first noted unusual depressions in the bedrock. In the 1920s, British explorer Howard Vyse speculated on the existence of an underground network based on inconsistencies in the terrain. Even more recently, in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, ground-penetrating radar and seismic studies have detected anomalies beneath the base, cavities, voids, and passages that appear inconsistent with the known architectural plans. Officially, the only acknowledged feature beneath the Great Pyramid is the so-called subterranean chamber, an oddly shaped and unfinished cavity carved directly into the bedrock. Its rough surfaces and unusual design contrast sharply with the polished stone of the chambers above. No sarcophagus was found here, no hieroglyphs, no clear explanation. Why would the builders of the most precisely constructed pyramid begin a chamber beneath ground level, only to abandon it? Some Egyptologists suggest it was an early attempt at a burial chamber, later replaced by the king's chamber above. Others argue it may have had symbolic or ritualistic significance, aligned with ancient beliefs about the underworld. But still, the anomalies persist. Geophysicists working with independent teams have, at times, been denied deeper access to explore these subterranean zones. Permission from antiquities authorities is notoriously difficult to obtain, especially when theories stray too far from accepted doctrine. But leaked data and peer-reviewed studies alike suggest that these cavities are real. Some appear as small depressions. Others span entire corridors. What purpose did these spaces serve? Could they be unfinished chambers? Abandoned for engineering reasons? Or were they storage vaults, perhaps filled with tools, scrolls, or forgotten artifacts now sealed beneath layers of stone? Or were they something else entirely? Speculative theories, though often dismissed, have proposed bold possibilities. Some suggest that beneath the Great Pyramid lies a Hall of Records, a legendary repository of ancient knowledge rumored to be protected by the pyramid's very geometry. The idea is rooted in myth, but not without foundation. Ancient texts from various cultures, from Egyptian to Greek to Arab, have spoken of vast libraries hidden beneath the sands, left by civilizations predating the dynastic pharaohs. One such myth links this hidden archive to Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, said to have sealed his sacred texts deep underground to preserve them from cataclysm or corruption. Edgar Cayce, the 20th century mystic known as the Sleeping Prophet, famously predicted that a hall of records would be discovered beneath the Sphinx's paw. Though this remains unproven, the notion of subterranean secrets at Giza has endured through decades of exploration and imagination. Could the Great Pyramid, monument of eternity, house more than a king's final resting place? The architectural design itself seems to whisper possibilities. The shafts that lead from the king and queen's chambers don't open to the outside air. Some end abruptly. Others, once thought to be ventilation tunnels, now appear symbolically aligned with stars like Sirius and Orion's belt. Stellar destinations linked to rebirth and ascension in Egyptian cosmology. Could the same celestial logic have influenced what lay below? And if the voids are not random, if they are intentional, what does that say about their builders? The standard chronology holds that the Great Pyramid was built around 2560 BCE during the reign of Khufu. The logistics of such a massive project, allegedly completed in just 20 years using copper tools and manual labor, remain debated. No architectural plans have been found, no blueprints etched into tombs or scrolls. What if the pyramid was more than a tomb? What if it was a machine of sorts, a structure with functions we have yet to understand? Not in a science fiction sense, but as a ritual engine designed to interact with energies, cosmic, terrestrial, or symbolic, that modern science has yet to quantify. Could the hidden chambers, above and below, represent more than just space? Could they have served as resonance chambers, symbolic tombs for deities, or even repositories for knowledge meant to survive cataclysm? And if so, what remains untouched beneath the limestone casing, beneath the crumbling rock, beyond the reach of our tools and theories? The sands around the Great Pyramid continue to shift. Ground-penetrating radar keeps detecting shapes. Some are dismissed. Others remain classified or forgotten. The deeper we look, the more the boundaries between established fact and lingering mystery blur. One chamber has already been found using invisible particles from space. Others may await rediscovery, sealed by time and guarded by silence. As we stand at the edge of what is known, peering into the stone shadows of what lies beneath, we are reminded of a simple truth. The Great Pyramid has not yet told us all of its secrets, and perhaps the most extraordinary revelation isn't in what we've found, but in what we've yet to uncover. As the sun drifts westward over the Egyptian desert, its final rays settle on the crumbling limestone terraces of a place older than Giza, older than the pyramids most tourists know. This is SAQQARA, an ancient necropolis that stretches like a stone mirage south of Cairo, where silence reigns and shadows cling to secrets the world has yet to fully understand. Here, among weathered tombs and windswept causeways, time feels different. It slows, it thickens. SAQQARA is a landscape layered in funerary rites, lost dynasties, and architectural marvels that predate even the Great Pyramid. And yet, despite its age, and perhaps because of it, SAQQARA remains one of Egypt's most enigmatic sights. The centerpiece is unmistakable, the step pyramid of Djoser. Rising in 6 stacked levels, this monument is widely accepted as the earliest colossal stone structure ever built. Designed by the high priest and architect Imhotep, it marked a revolution in construction, a leap from mud brick tombs to limestone temples of eternity. Its existence signals the birth of monumental architecture in Egypt, but not the end of the mystery. Beneath this pyramid, carved into the bedrock like the veins of the underworld, lies a complex network of tunnels and shafts. Some descend more than 90 feet below the surface, winding through chambers once filled with alabaster jars, blue faience tiles, and relics of unknown function. More than 400 rooms, some intricately carved, others left rough and unfinished, compose a labyrinth whose original purpose remains open to interpretation. Were these spaces built solely for burial? Or was something else being preserved or concealed? Recent excavations in the wider SAQQARA Plateau have added new layers to the enigma. In the past decade alone, archaeologists have uncovered dozens of coffins, statues, and animal mummies, some perfectly preserved, despite the thousands of years that have passed. In 2020, a vast cache of wooden sarcophagi, sealed and painted in vivid color, was discovered stacked in vertical shafts, untouched since antiquity. Their presence poses more questions than answers. Why here? Why so many? And why now? Some scholars argue that Saqqara was never meant to be a static burial ground. Instead, it functioned as a living ritual complex, a sacred stage where rites were performed not just for the dead, but for the cosmos itself. The alignment of certain tombs with celestial markers, the presence of symbolic architecture like the serdab, a sealed room housing a statue of the deceased, and the elaborate causeways that stretch toward the Nile suggest a deeper cosmological narrative. But amid these accepted truths, more curious anomalies emerge. In the sands not far from Djoser's pyramid lies the Serapeum of SAQQARA, a subterranean avenue of granite sarcophagi, each weighing as much as 70 tons. These massive boxes, perfectly polished and carved from single blocks of hard stone, were allegedly used to house the mummified remains of sacred Apis bulls. Yet, despite centuries of looting and decay, many of the sarcophagi were found empty. No inscriptions, no remains, just silence. How did the ancient Egyptians move and position such massive stones with no evidence of advanced tools or machinery? And why go to such extraordinary lengths to preserve animals, if animals were even the original purpose? Mainstream archaeology attributes the feat to ingenuity, manpower, and time. But alternative voices question this explanation. The precision of the stonework, the sharp 90-degree interior angles, the mirrored finishes, all carved into granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth, has led some to suggest the use of lost technologies or techniques no longer understood. Could it be that these sarcophagi served a purpose beyond burial, perhaps as containment vessels, storage chambers, or even resonant instruments tied to ritual or sound? And then there are the inscriptions. Scattered across Saqqara are cryptic hieroglyphs that seem at odds with their surroundings, symbols that don't match the period in which they were supposedly carved. Some tombs reference deities in forms not fully understood, or kings whose rule is contested or omitted from formal records. One such puzzle is the pyramid texts, the oldest known religious writings in the world, found etched into the walls of pyramids at Saqqara. These texts speak of the stars, of ascension, of gods moving through portals in the sky. They describe a journey of the soul, not just through the underworld but through dimensions, spaces, unknown. Were these metaphors, poetic visions of the afterlife? Or do they encode something more, a knowledge of the heavens, perhaps, or a memory of visitors from beyond? Even more tantalizing are the anomalies found beneath the surface. Cavities detected through seismic surveys, chambers closed off by collapsed walls or inaccessible shafts. Some lead nowhere. Others end abruptly. But a few, according to early records and forbidden maps, may connect to structures still buried beneath the sand. One theory holds that Saqqara is far larger than we currently understand, that beneath the plateau lies an interconnected matrix of passageways, stretching from Djoser's pyramid all the way to Dashur and possibly even Giza. An ancient network deliberately sealed and forgotten, waiting to be rediscovered. Why would such an expansive system be hidden? And who had the authority or the need to erase it from view? The answers remain elusive. Modern excavation at Saqqara is a slow, politically sensitive process. The weight of preservation, politics, and tradition makes certain areas nearly impossible to explore. And so, speculation grows where evidence cannot yet tread. Could the buried corridors contain texts we were never meant to find? Might they preserve the remnants of a culture older than dynastic Egypt, one whose memory lingers only in myth and stone? Some point to the curious repetition of older elements in SAQQARA's structures, the use of archaic styles in later tombs, the seemingly deliberate mimicry of older, more advanced techniques. Could this be evidence of knowledge being preserved, not innovated, but remembered? And if so, what origin did that knowledge truly have? For now, SAQQARA remains a site in flux. With each new season, discoveries emerge. Intact sarcophagi, hidden tombs, unopened shafts. The sands shift, and with them the boundaries of our understanding. In the quiet heat of evening, as the last light falls across the step pyramid and the shadows stretch long across the stone, SAQQARA whispers still. Not in revelation, but in riddle. It is a place that reminds us how little we know, not just about ancient Egypt, but about the deeper currents of human history. What might still lie beneath the sands, beneath the tombs, beneath the silence? What truths remain buried in the shadows of SAQQARA? Not far from the better-known wonders of ancient Egypt, beyond the familiar silhouettes of the pyramids and the stepped terraces of SAQQARA, lies a quieter realm. A realm of buried thresholds and sun-bleached stone, of wind-carved ridges and half-remembered names. This is where the desert begins to speak in subtler tones, and where ancient ruins lie not in grand display, but veiled beneath centuries of shifting sand. Among the low hills west of Abydos, and not far from the edge of the western desert escarpment, local whispers persist about a structure. Ruined, buried, or perhaps only half-imagined. Archaeologists refer to it obliquely as a lost sanctuary. Others call it the forgotten temple beneath the dunes. Its name is poetic, but it may also be literal. The story begins with fragments. Stone blocks covered in eroded hieroglyphs, unearthed not through excavation, but by the wind. In the dry season, when the sand thins and the surface hardens, small traces emerge, inscribed lintels, broken columns, and what appear to be foundation outlines, all half consumed by the desert floor. Some of these stones bear the marks of known dynasties, ram-headed sphinxes linked to Khnum, lotus carvings in the style of the Middle Kingdom. Others, however, are more peculiar. They show architectural motifs out of place for their era. Columns with no known counterpart, symbols not yet fully translated, materials that, according to current maps of quarry distribution, should not have been available in the region. For decades, Egyptologists attributed these anomalies to secondary sites, satellite shrines or administrative outposts lost to time. But as more fragments were documented by survey teams and satellite imagery began to penetrate the surface in new ways, a clearer picture began to form. The outlines were not random. The geometry suggested purpose. High-resolution infrared scans in the early 2000s revealed a rectangular substructure hidden just beneath the dunes, approximately 70 meters in length, with internal divisions that resembled corridors and chambers. Unlike most known temples, which typically face east toward the rising sun, this one appeared to orient westward, toward the setting sun, the land of the dead. Why? Was this temple part of a funerary complex, a sacred retreat for priests? Or was it something even more obscure, a site not for the dead, but for initiates? Records from late antiquity hint at a mysterious complex in this region, referred to in Coptic texts as PHARAOH, roughly the House of Life in the land of the South. While no definitive link has been made, some scholars suggest the name may refer not to a symbolic structure, but to a real one, perhaps one now buried beneath the sand. Local Bedouin tribes speak of a place avoided by shepherds and caravans. They tell stories of strange stone forms revealed by windstorms, then swiftly swallowed again. Some describe finding worked stone where no quarry exists. Others speak of subterranean chambers that echo when struck, hollow spaces beneath solid earth. Could this be the same temple? It's important to remember, Egypt's sands do not simply erase, they preserve. Across the country, entire cities have been found beneath the surface, protected by the very dunes that conceal them. Tanis, Avaris, Amarna, each vanished, only to re-emerge through patience and accident. The notion of a forgotten temple, then, is far from implausible. What's less certain is the temple's function and origin. The fragments retrieved from the edges of the site resist easy categorization. While some inscriptions reference known pharaohs, others do not. A few even hint at lineages long erased from public stelae, their names chiseled out elsewhere, but preserved here in silence. One fragment, rarely displayed, carries an inscription referring to the sky watchers of the horizon, a phrase not found in any other surviving religious text from dynastic Egypt. Who were these sky watchers? Some mainstream historians interpret the term metaphorically, priest astronomers tracking celestial cycles. Others are less convinced. The combination of architecture, alignment, and isolation suggests a facility removed from normal worship. It may have been private, initiatory, possibly even prohibited. In certain esoteric circles, the temple is linked to a controversial idea that a pre-dynastic culture, either native or external, established sacred sites long before Egypt as we know it emerged. The theory holds that the earliest builders did not evolve the pyramid or temple form gradually, but rather inherited or preserved it. Could this forgotten temple be a remnant of such a precursor tradition? If so, its lack of grandeur, its apparent simplicity, may be deceptive. Some of the world's most important sanctuaries are not those that dazzle the eye, but those that encode knowledge. Calendars, cosmologies, and metaphysical systems written in stone. Could the temple beneath the dunes have served as a library of sorts, not of scrolls but of geometry, alignment, and sacred proportion? The floor plan, extrapolated from geophysical scans, shows evidence of a central axis flanked by symmetrically spaced chambers. Some have theorized that this layout mimics a star pattern, or perhaps the constellation of Orion, a celestial motif deeply embedded in Egypt's symbolic tradition. Others see in it a mirrored version of the human body, suggesting initiation rites tied to inner transformation. And yet, without full excavation, all of this remains speculative. Excavation, however, is complicated. The site lies in a politically sensitive zone. Shifting regulations and limited resources have stalled most long-term exploration. Some rumors suggest that early exploratory digs in the 1980s were halted after reaching a sealed vault, though no official records of such a discovery exist. Whether fact or fiction, such tales only deepen the mystery. Could the vault, if real, contain inscriptions lost to known history? Tools or artifacts from a forgotten dynasty? Or perhaps something less tangible? A worldview that challenges our assumptions about who built Egypt and why. At times, it feels as if Egypt's greatest secrets lie not in what we have found, but in what we are not yet allowed to find. The Forgotten Temple. Beneath the dunes is more than just a curiosity. It represents the edge of the known map, a threshold between evidence and intuition, between the archaeologist's trowel and the mythmaker's pen. It asks difficult questions in soft voices. Why was it built where it is? Why was it buried? And why, in an age where technology allows us to see deeper than ever before, do we still hesitate to uncover it? Perhaps the answers lie not only in the sand, but in ourselves, in the way we choose to interpret history and the stories we are willing to hear. For now, the dunes remain undisturbed, holding fast to their secret. And in the long shadows of the late afternoon, as a wind whispers over half-buried stones, we are left to wonder. What else sleeps beneath Egypt's forgotten sands, waiting not just to be unearthed, but to be understood? The Egyptian desert does not yield its secrets easily. Its silence is ancient. Its shadows are long. But beneath its golden skin, beneath the dunes, the cliffs, and the dusty plains, lie mysteries waiting to be revealed. Some are grand and celebrated: the pyramids of Giza, the Valley of the Kings, the treasures of Tutankhamun. Others, however, lie quietly in the margins. Overlooked, unnamed, unopened, they are the unmarked tombs. Scattered throughout Egypt, especially in the less traveled regions near El Minya, along the cliffs of Beni Hassan, and in the desert escarpments flanking Luxor, are entrances that seem almost accidental. Faint outlines in the rock face, subtle depressions in the earth, doorways that go nowhere, or so it seems. Some of these portals have never been explored. Sealed since antiquity, they bear no inscriptions, no decorative reliefs, and no formal markers of ownership. Their silence is not just physical, it is historical. They are tombs that do not speak, at least not yet. Unlike the grand tombs of kings and viziers, which announce themselves with pomp and purpose, these unmarked chambers offer no such clarity. Their anonymity is what makes them so intriguing. Who were they built for? Why were they left uninscribed? And perhaps, most importantly, why have they never been opened? In 2018, a team working along the desert rim south of Asyut discovered several shaft entrances cut deep into the limestone cliffside. Unlike the surrounding tombs from the first intermediate period, which had been well documented and in many cases thoroughly looted, these entrances had been undisturbed. No signs of prior excavation, no breach, no looter's debris. The shafts descended vertically into the bedrock, their upper thresholds almost entirely covered in sediment. Initial ground-penetrating radar scans revealed chambers below, rectangular, sealed, and apparently intact. Yet permissions to open them were never granted. Local authorities cited structural instability and limited funding, but unofficially some whispered of deeper concerns. Concerns about what opening a completely unknown tomb might mean, for preservation, for interpretation, and perhaps for belief. Across Egypt, there are dozens, perhaps hundreds, of similar tombs. Some visible from satellite imagery, others known only through old maps or field notes left by 19th century explorers who never had the chance to return. Many were noted in passing, dismissed as minor or unfinished, but others were carefully recorded, with remarks that hint at something more. One such example lies near the base of the cliffs at Gebel el Silsila, a site better known for its sandstone quarries. Amid the quarry walls and abandoned chapels is a partially buried entrance, first documented in 1893 by the French Egyptologist Georges Legrand. He noted the peculiar absence of markings and the deliberate nature of the stonework. The entrance was sealed by a single monolithic block, perfectly fitted, almost unnaturally so. He made a sketch, took a rubbing of the outer surface, and moved on. The tomb remains sealed to this day. Why would someone go to the effort of building such precise architecture, then leave no indication of who lay within? Traditional explanations suggest that these might be tombs prepared in haste during unstable periods of Egyptian history, times of political fragmentation, religious upheaval, or foreign invasion. During the first intermediate period, and again during the late New Kingdom, tombs were often constructed quickly, and inscriptions added only if time allowed. It's possible that some unmarked tombs were abandoned before completion. But what if they weren't abandoned? What if anonymity was intentional? Could these tombs have been built for individuals whose identities were meant to be protected or erased? In dynastic Egypt, erasure was a powerful tool. The names of fallen pharaohs were systematically removed from monuments. Heretics, traitors, or those associated with political defeat were often denied a name in death, rendered invisible in eternity. Alternatively, could the lack of inscriptions suggest an even more secretive function? In the necropolis of Abydos, considered one of the holiest sites in ancient Egypt, there are chambers with no associated burials, rooms carved deeply into the rock, accessible only through hidden shafts. Some believe these may have been used for ritual rather than burial. Initiation chambers, places of passage, not into death but into knowledge. And if so, might some unmarked tombs across Egypt have served a similar purpose? What makes these sealed chambers all the more intriguing are the subtle architectural details visible even from their exteriors. In several cases, the design of the doorway or the orientation of the shaft deviates from the norm. Some face west, others north, directions not typically associated with elite burials. A few show evidence of higher craftsmanship than surrounding tombs, using stone-cutting techniques that suggest tools or skills not widely employed in their time. This raises difficult questions. Were these tombs part of an elite class operating outside the traditional hierarchy? A priesthood? A secretive order? Or are we merely projecting complexity onto what may be mundane? Fringe theories, often dismissed by mainstream academia, posit that some of these tombs might date not to known dynasties but to an earlier epoch, perhaps even before dynastic Egypt itself. According to these views, the unmarked tombs are remnants of a forgotten people or civilization, one that predated the pharaohs and passed down their knowledge in fragments. While there is little physical evidence to support such claims, it's worth noting that the Egyptian chronology, despite centuries of study, is still being revised. New radiocarbon data has occasionally pushed back dates previously thought firm. Could it be that some tombs are far older than we currently believe? The issue, of course, is access. Many unmarked tombs remain closed, not just by stone but by bureaucracy. Funding is limited, excavation is slow, and political concerns often outweigh academic curiosity. The longer they remain sealed, the more they fade from memory. A dot on a map, a forgotten shaft in the cliff, a potential wonder waiting beneath the dust. But what if one were opened? What would we find inside? A simple burial, untouched by looters, preserved in resin and linen. An elite who chose silence over ceremony? Or something stranger, something that challenges the story we tell about who the Egyptians were and where their knowledge came from? The desert has always been a place of concealment, but concealment is not the same as forgetting. Some tombs do not want to be found, or perhaps they are waiting for the right eyes to see them. For now, the doors remain closed, the seals remain unbroken, and the silence endures. But beneath the sands and behind the stone, something waits, shrouded not just in time, but in intention. What truths might lie inside the tombs we've never dared to open? And more importantly, what stories do they still have to tell? And so, from the sealed tombs we've never dared to disturb, we shift our gaze outward, toward the open sands, the crumbling ruins, and the broken earth. Toward the things that have surfaced without warning, in places where they never should have been. Egypt, a land known for its grand symmetry and ordered rituals, has also been home to unexpected dissonance, oddities that challenge our carefully drawn timelines. They are the strange artifacts found in unexpected places. It begins, as it often does, with a single find, innocuous at first, but echoing with deeper implications. In 1912, near the small town of El Fayoum, west of the Nile, A team clearing debris from an old granary discovered something puzzling. A fragment of obsidian, finely polished, bearing no hieroglyphs, no ornamental value, yet shaped with mathematical precision. It was unlike the typical tools of the region and did not match the known cultural layers. It appeared to predate the site's own foundations. Then there's the curious bronze tool unearthed during a drainage project in 1997 in the village of Komombo, nestled beside its famous temple. The instrument was lodged beneath layers of Roman-era occupation. But the object itself, a tapered implement of unknown use, showed metallurgical composition more consistent with methods thought to have emerged centuries later, possibly even from non-Egyptian traditions. There was no record of such tools in any known archive from the period. So, how did it get there? And more importantly, who left it behind? Sometimes the context raises more questions than the object itself. In 2003, beneath the ruins of a collapsed storage structure near SAQQARA, archaeologists discovered a cache of small alabaster vessels. Most were unremarkable, but among them sat a single bowl, its lip razor thin, the inner walls perfectly concentric. The workmanship was baffling. According to traditional understanding, even with copper tools and sand abrasives, shaping such symmetry, especially with such delicate stone, should not have been possible during the time period it was dated to. The vessel was placed in storage. Studied briefly, then largely forgotten. But these anomalies are not isolated. There's the small spiral-carved stone disc found in Abydos beneath layers of older temple construction. The curious metallic ring pulled from a cliff crevice near the Dakhla oasis. Tarnished, but not rusted, its composition never fully confirmed. And perhaps most famously the SAQQARA bird, a wooden artifact resembling a bird in flight, but with aerodynamic properties that continue to confound experts. Though officially dated to around 200 BCE, some engineers have suggested it resembles the form of a modern glider. Are these simply coincidences, outliers, or are they glimpses of a forgotten layer of Egyptian history, one that diverges, subtly but significantly, from the narrative we've come to accept? Traditional archaeologists offer grounded explanations: mislabeling, later contamination of stratigraphic layers, the long lifespan of certain artifact types across regions and time periods. These are valid, often accurate interpretations. Ancient Egypt, after all, was a complex society with overlapping eras, diverse influences, and extensive trade networks that stretched far into the Levant, Sudan, and even the Mediterranean. But there are cases where these explanations falter. In 2015, a multidisciplinary team excavating at the Temple of Seti Das in Abydos found a small object wedged between two foundational stones. It appeared to be made of a quartz-like material, but embedded with fine gold filaments, microscopic in scale. No tool marks were visible, no pattern of wear, and perhaps most curiously, it was located at a depth that, based on stratigraphy, placed it several centuries before the reign of Seti himself. The object was removed for testing. Results were inconclusive. Is it a modern contamination, somehow slipped in during a previous dig, or something older and far stranger? Fringe theorists have long pointed to these artifacts as evidence of lost technologies or even lost civilizations, cultures that possessed knowledge that, for reasons unknown, vanished from the historical record. Theories range from survivors of Atlantis to time-displaced travelers to ancient contact with otherworldly beings. These claims, while compelling to the imagination, often outpace the available evidence. Yet they serve a function. They force us to revisit the things that don't quite add up. And there are many. Take, for example, the copper-plated needle found in a tomb near Aswan. far older than any known use of true plating techniques in the region, or the schematic-like etchings on a limestone shard recovered near the Giza Plateau. Geometric patterns, straight lines intersecting at angles so precise they suggest drafting tools more advanced than any known from the time. Could these be mere accidents of erosion, trickery of the eye, or are they fragments of something once known and now forgotten? Perhaps the most unsettling aspect is how these artifacts seem deliberately placed, not just lost or discarded, but hidden, tucked into structural cavities, embedded in foundation layers, placed beneath the statues or within sealed chambers, as if their presence was meant to be discovered, not in their own time, but in ours. What purpose might that serve? Is it possible these objects served as a kind of time capsule? A message to the future? Or could they have held ritual significance, their placement intended to infuse sacred spaces with forgotten power or meaning? In the Karnak temple complex, there is a chamber known as the Room of the Ancestors, a hall lined with king lists and cartouches. Yet hidden within the wall of an adjoining structure is a small cavity, accessible only by removing a block no broader than a handspan. Inside, researchers once found a thin metal strip coiled like a scroll. It bore no writing, no markings. Its metal, a nickel alloy not known to have been smelted during the time of the early 18th dynasty. It, too, was logged, archived, and filed away, and to this day its presence remains unexplained. Are we dealing with isolated anomalies, or are these the quiet remnants of a larger pattern, long obscured by the passage of time? The sands of Egypt have an uncanny way of preserving the improbable, but they also obscure. For every artifact recovered, countless more remain buried, scattered across temple foundations, lost in floodplains, hidden beneath modern construction. What strange tools, unfamiliar materials, or impossible forms lie waiting beneath the layers? Could it be that our understanding of Egyptian innovation is incomplete, not because the ancients lacked technology, but because their innovations operated under a different logic? A different language of craftsmanship, one we've yet to translate? Perhaps we should ask not whether these artifacts belong to the known timeline, but whether our timeline is wide enough to contain them. For now, they rest in museum basements, storage boxes, and dusty archives, categorized, labeled, and quietly ignored. Yet their silence speaks volumes. The story of ancient Egypt is not etched solely in stone or carved into royal tombs. Sometimes it is whispered through the unexpected, a shard, a disc, a fragment of unknown metal, and when the familiar fades into the unexplainable, we are left with questions. How many more strange objects remain hidden in plain sight, and what forgotten truths might they still carry, waiting patiently to be understood? As our journey continues through the veiled corridors of ancient Egypt's past, we encounter a mystery as silent and elusive as the desert wind. A queen whose name echoes faintly through history, yet whose final resting place remains unknown. She is a figure whispered about in fragments of papyrus and fleeting inscriptions, a royal enigma that defies the very traditions she should have embodied. Imagine the sun-drenched sands of the Valley of the Queens, where countless tombs lie carved into the cliffs, their walls adorned with vibrant depictions of life beyond death. Here, kings and queens were laid to rest in elaborate sepulchres, their tombs a testament to power, divinity, and eternal presence. Yet, among these monuments of stone and memory, one queen seems to have vanished, not merely forgotten but deliberately absent. Her name appears sporadically in historical records, intertwined with the reign of a powerful pharaoh whose legacy shaped an era. She is credited in official lists as a consort of great standing, yet no tomb bearing her name has ever been found. Archaeologists have scoured the valleys and necropolises, uncovering royal burial sites, but the Queen's chamber remains elusive, unmarked, unseen, as if swallowed by time itself. What might this absence signify? In a culture where the afterlife was paramount, and where the tomb served as the eternal home of the soul, the lack of a known resting place raises profound questions. Was her tomb destroyed or hidden? Could it have been intentionally concealed to protect her from desecration, or erased from memory due to political strife? Or perhaps it lies beneath shifting sands, waiting silently for rediscovery. Several verified facts surround this mystery. Royal women of her stature typically received tombs carved in intricate detail, their walls filled with spells, prayers, and depictions designed to ensure safe passage to the afterlife. The Valley of the Queens alone houses over 70 tombs, ranging from modest to lavish. The absence of her tomb disrupts this pattern, challenging assumptions about royal burial customs. Intriguingly, some scholars point to subtle clues in other tombs, small references or symbolic art, that hint at her existence and role. Inscriptions found in the tombs of other queens and officials occasionally mention a name that aligns with hers, suggesting a web of relationships and influence that may have extended far beyond what is visible. More speculative theories emerge when we consider the political turbulence of certain dynasties. Ancient Egypt was not immune to palace intrigues, rivalries, and power struggles. Could this queen have fallen out of favor, her memory deliberately suppressed or obscured? Some propose that she might have been associated with religious reforms or controversial political alliances that led to her erasure from monumental record. Others suggest a more enigmatic possibility, that her tomb might not be in the traditional royal necropolises at all. Recent advances in remote sensing and archaeological technology have revealed hidden chambers and subterranean structures beneath the sands in unexpected locations. Could her final resting place be concealed beneath a desert dune, within a complex yet to be uncovered? Might it be sealed away not by accident, but by design? An ancient secret preserved against the ravages of time and human curiosity. These questions invite us to reconsider what we know about royal burials and the cultural forces at play. They challenge us to think beyond the visible ruins and written records, probing the shadows where history fades into mystery. What do we make of the silence surrounding this queen? Is it a testament to lost history, to stories deliberately erased, or to truths still hidden beneath layers of sand and stone? And what might the discovery of her tomb reveal, not just about one woman's fate, but about the political and spiritual currents that shaped a civilization? As we ponder these whispers from the past, the queen without a tomb becomes more than an archaeological puzzle. She is a symbol of all that remains concealed in the vast tapestry of ancient Egypt. Reminders that history is not always written in stone, and that some mysteries endure, patiently awaiting those willing to listen. What secrets do the sands still keep? What stories lie buried, just beyond the reach of time's light? And who will be the next to uncover the silent voice of a queen lost to history? Beneath the blistering sun of Egypt's vast desert, amidst the iconic landscape of towering pyramids and ancient tombs, stands a structure often overlooked, a silent monument to ambition left incomplete. This is the unfinished pyramid, a stark silhouette against the horizon, its jagged edges and incomplete tiers breaking the flawless geometry so synonymous with Egyptian mastery. Unlike its grand, perfected counterparts, this pyramid tells a different story, one marked by mystery, abrupt cessation, and unanswered questions. The unfinished pyramid is located at Zayat el-Aryan, a lesser-known necropolis nestled between the Great Giza Plateau and the SAQQARA complex. Unlike the sweeping perfection of the Great Pyramid or the graceful lines of the Step Pyramid, this pyramid rises only partially from the sands, its outer casing absent, revealing rough, unpolished stone and construction marks that speak of sudden abandonment. Here, the stone blocks seem scattered in mid-construction, as if workers abruptly halted their labor and vanished into the desert wind. Archaeologists date the site to the late 4th or early 5th dynasty, a period when pyramid building was evolving but still fiercely symbolic, a pharaoh's gateway to eternity. Yet, despite its significance, the pyramid remains a shadowy enigma. Who commissioned it? Why was it never completed? What circumstances interrupted its creation? The answers are elusive, buried beneath millennia of sand and silence. The unfinished pyramid challenges many assumptions about ancient Egyptian statecraft and funerary practices. Royal pyramids were not mere tombs. They were statements of divine power, meticulously planned, and resource-intensive undertakings. For construction to cease abruptly suggests extraordinary events, political upheaval, economic crises, or perhaps the sudden death of the pharaoh himself. Yet records from the period remain frustratingly vague, offering only cryptic references to rulers whose names flicker briefly in history before vanishing. Within the pyramid's precinct, traces of workmen's graffiti and hurried inscriptions provide some clues. These markings reveal the names of quarry teams and overseers, hinting at an organized workforce and complex logistics. But the work seems to have stopped long before completion, leaving questions about the intended design and final purpose. Was this pyramid destined for a forgotten ruler, or was it a ceremonial monument never meant to be finished? More speculative ideas surface when considering the pyramid's orientation and unfinished state. Some researchers suggest that changes in religious doctrine or shifts in political power might have redirected resources and priorities. Could this incomplete structure symbolize a transitional phase in royal mortuary architecture, a step between older traditions and emerging burial customs? Or does it conceal a secret purpose, hidden chambers, or coded messages still waiting to be uncovered by modern technology? The unfinished pyramid also invites reflection on the human element, the laborers whose hands shaped each stone, and the architects who dreamed of immortality through stone and mortar. What became of their efforts? Were they reassigned, or did they abandon the project in confusion and frustration? In this incomplete monument, we glimpse the uncertainty and fragility that even the most powerful societies could not escape. Furthermore, the pyramid's obscurity raises questions about historical narrative itself. Why has this unfinished giant remained largely absent from popular discourse? Is it because its story disrupts the image of seamless Egyptian grandeur? Or does its silence hint at uncomfortable truths about the complexities and failures beneath the surface of ancient civilization? As technology advances, new surveys using ground-penetrating radar and 3D imaging have begun to reveal previously hidden details around and beneath the structure. Voids, tunnels, and unexplored chambers. Each discovery fuels intrigue. What lies beneath the rough exterior? Might there be artifacts or inscriptions that illuminate the pyramid's true purpose, or perhaps reveal the fate of the ruler it was meant to honor? Standing before this silent monolith today, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of mystery. The unfinished pyramid is a physical testament to interrupted ambitions, a reminder that even the mightiest projects of antiquity could falter. It speaks to the passage of time and the countless stories lost to history's relentless tide. What secrets remain locked within its incomplete walls? Could the unfinished pyramid at Zayat el-Aryan hold answers not just about a forgotten ruler, but about broader shifts in Egyptian society, political upheaval, religious transformation, or changing visions of the afterlife? And as archaeologists continue to peel back the layers of sand and stone, will the echoes of this silent monument finally reveal truths that have long been concealed? In contemplating the unfinished pyramid, we are invited to ponder the nature of history itself. A tapestry woven with triumphs and failures, with grand designs and sudden halts. And as the desert wind sweeps over its rugged stones, the mystery lingers, waiting patiently for those who seek to understand what truly lies beneath the surface. Beneath the timeless sands, and beneath the towering monuments of ancient Egypt, lie traces of a civilization that mastered the art of shaping stone, metal, and wood with astonishing precision. The great pyramids, temples, and statues stand as testament to their craftsmanship, yet amid these achievements there exist tools that challenge our understanding of what was possible in that ancient era. Tools that, by all conventional measures, should not exist. Picture a darkened chamber within a remote archaeological site. Scattered among pottery shards and fragments of ancient life, archaeologists uncover artifacts whose craftsmanship defies expectations. These objects are not merely remnants of daily labor. They bear signs of technology and design far beyond what was thought achievable with the tools known to have existed thousands of years ago. One example often cited is the presence of perfectly shaped copper drills and saws that, when examined under magnification, display an uncanny ability to cut through incredibly hard stones like granite and diorite. The smoothness and precision of the cuts found on some monuments suggest a technology so refined that modern researchers struggle to replicate it, using only the primitive tools traditionally attributed to the ancient Egyptians. Historians and archaeologists confirm the existence of copper and bronze tools from the period, but these materials are soft compared to the stones they were meant to carve. So, how were the Egyptians able to chisel and polish these surfaces with such accuracy? The official explanations suggest techniques involving abrasive sand, repeated hammering, and immense manual labor. Yet, certain artifacts and construction details hint at something more sophisticated, something that challenges the accepted timeline of technological development. Further intrigue emerges from the discovery of mysterious devices resembling small drills and precision cutting tools, some found embedded in the stones themselves. These objects appear to be made of materials that are difficult to categorize, their origins shrouded in uncertainty. Could these be remnants of forgotten technologies, tools lost to time but once integral to Egypt's monumental building programs? Speculation naturally arises. Some researchers propose the use of advanced mechanical drills powered by water or wind, or even early forms of power tools long before their documented invention. Others suggest the possibility of unknown techniques involving vibrations or heat treatment that softened stones in ways still unexplained by conventional archaeology. Could these tools represent a lost branch of ancient engineering, a secret passed down and then buried with the passage of millennia? Beyond mere tools, there are accounts, though not always well documented, of objects made from materials unknown in the region or era, with properties that suggest advanced metallurgy or composite crafting. Could these be evidence of trade or knowledge exchanges with distant cultures, or perhaps innovations developed independently and subsequently forgotten? Skeptics argue that such interpretations often rely on incomplete data or a misunderstanding of ancient methods, emphasizing that extraordinary craftsmanship does not necessarily imply advanced technology beyond historical records. Yet, the questions persist. How do we reconcile the undeniable precision of ancient Egyptian stonework with the supposed limitations of their tools? What undiscovered methods or innovations might lie buried alongside the monuments? Moreover, the symbolic nature of these tools cannot be overlooked. Some appear in temple carvings and tomb paintings, depicted in ritual contexts that suggest a significance beyond the practical. Were these tools also objects of spiritual power or symbolic meaning, blurring the line between technology and mysticism in ancient Egyptian culture? Modern experiments have attempted to recreate ancient construction techniques, sometimes with impressive results, but the mystery remains. Why do some artifacts, like the unfinished obelisk in Aswan, reveal the fragility of even the most skilled craftsmanship when abandoned mid-construction? Could the presence of these mysterious tools hint at a lost mastery, interrupted or suppressed over time? In pondering these ancient instruments, we glimpse a civilization balancing on the edge of known history and mystery, its achievements a blend of human ingenuity and possibly forgotten science. The notion that these tools shouldn't exist, or at least shouldn't exist in the form and function suggested by the archaeological record, invites us to question the boundaries of ancient technology. What secrets might these tools conceal? Could they reveal a narrative of innovation lost to time? Or are they artifacts of a civilization whose full story we have yet to comprehend? And if such advanced methods were once known, what happened to that knowledge? And could it still be uncovered beneath the shifting sands? As we peer deeper into the shadows of ancient workshops and quarry sites, the question lingers. How much of Egypt's architectural grandeur was built with methods now beyond our grasp? The mystery of these ancient tools remains open, inviting us to explore, to question, and to seek the truths hidden just beneath the surface of history. The desert heat softens as the sun dips low behind the sandstone cliffs of the Valley of the Kings, a place where the stories of pharaohs and gods intertwine, and the secrets of eternity lie buried deep beneath the earth. Here, among the labyrinthine corridors and shadowed chambers, lies one tomb that defies expectation. A tomb without a name and without a body. The entrance is unassuming, almost overlooked by the casual observer. A narrow passage carved into rugged rock, weathered by centuries yet preserved enough to hint at careful design. Inside, the walls are adorned with faded hieroglyphs and painted scenes, though, curiously, none bear the name or titles of the tomb's occupant. Unlike neighboring tombs dedicated in lavish detail to powerful rulers or nobles, this chamber is marked only by absence, a silent void where identity should have been proudly proclaimed. Archaeologists first uncovered this enigmatic tomb decades ago, and since then, its mystery has only deepened. Careful excavation revealed an empty sarcophagus, its stone lid removed but resting nearby. No mummy was found within, no funerary goods or offerings typical of burial rites. The emptiness is profound, almost unsettling, as if the tomb itself is a riddle etched in stone, beckoning us to ask why it exists at all. Official interpretations suggest several possibilities. Perhaps the tomb was prepared but never used, an unfinished resting place abandoned due to political upheaval or the death of its intended occupant before burial. Alternatively, it might have been looted in antiquity, the body and treasures stolen by tomb robbers whose fingerprints are now lost to time. Yet these explanations only scratch the surface, leaving unanswered the question of why the tomb's walls lack any personal inscriptions, a rarity in a culture obsessed with immortalizing names and legacies. Some Egyptologists propose that the tomb could belong to an individual of unusual status, someone erased from official records by deliberate design. Was this a disgraced noble, a forgotten priest, or even a secret figure whose identity was deliberately concealed to protect their legacy from enemies? The ancient Egyptians believed names held power over the soul's survival. To erase a name was to condemn the deceased to oblivion. Could this tomb be the physical manifestation of such a curse or protective secrecy? Further intrigue arises from the tomb's architecture. The layout echoes that of other royal or noble tombs, with carefully constructed chambers and symbolic decorations, yet the absence of definitive markings creates an eerie sense of liminality, a space caught between life and death, known and unknown. Are there hidden chambers or secret passages yet to be discovered, perhaps containing the missing body or clues to the tomb's origin? Technological advancements have provided tantalizing insights. Ground-penetrating radar scans hint at unexplored voids beyond the visible chambers, while spectral imaging reveals faint pigments on the walls, suggesting that over centuries, deliberate alterations or erasures may have taken place. Were these efforts ancient acts of censorship or later interventions aimed at preserving the tomb's secrecy? More speculative theories delve into realms less conventional. Could the tomb be linked to clandestine religious practices, reserved for a mysterious sect or a figure whose identity was kept secret to maintain sacred mysteries? Some propose the possibility that the tomb is symbolic, an empty vessel representing concepts of death and rebirth rather than a physical burial site. If so, what does this say about ancient Egyptian spirituality, their views on identity, and the afterlife? The question of the missing body itself invites further reflection. Was the individual's remains removed for ritualistic purposes, relocated to another, undisclosed tomb? Or does the emptiness signify a metaphorical death, an erasure from history rather than a physical disappearance? And if tomb robbers were responsible, how could such a carefully constructed site be left so thoroughly emptied, with no trace of disturbance to other parts? Beyond the physical mystery lies the emotional resonance of the tomb. It is a monument to absence, to the stories lost or suppressed by time. In a civilization where memory and legacy were woven into the very fabric of their culture, this void is striking. It confronts us with the fragility of historical records and the gaps that inevitably remain. As we stand on the threshold of this nameless chamber, questions multiply. What the truths lie concealed in the silence? Who was meant to be honored here, and why has their story faded into shadow? The tomb, with no name and no body, challenges us to reconsider what we know about power, memory, and the passage of time in ancient Egypt. And as we peer into its darkness, the mystery remains, waiting patiently for those who dare to seek what history has hidden, and what might still be uncovered beneath the surface of forgotten stone. The fading light of dusk casts long shadows over the sprawling ruins of Amarna, the city once vibrant under the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten. Nearby, amidst the silent sands, lies the tomb of a figure whose story remains one of the most enigmatic chapters in Egypt's turbulent history, PHARAOH. His name appears at the crossroads of power, intrigue, and mystery, raising questions that echo through the corridors of time. Was I a rightful king, a cunning usurper, or merely a puppet shaped by forces beyond his control? Born into a period marked by religious upheaval and political instability, A rose from relatively humble origins, serving in the court of Tutankhamun before ascending the throne himself. His tomb, richly decorated yet somewhat modest compared to those of other pharaohs, hints at a man who wielded significant influence. But how did he acquire it? The official narrative portrays him as a loyal advisor who stepped into the role of king following the untimely death of Tutankhamun. But beneath this veneer lie complexities that historians still grapple with today. Evidence from inscriptions and artifacts suggests A was a powerful figure even before his kingship, holding titles such as God's Father, a designation that implies a close connection to the royal family, possibly as the father-in-law of Tutankhamun. Yet, unlike most pharaohs who claimed divine lineage, A's origins are murky, and his legitimacy questioned. Was his rise a natural succession, or the result of political maneuvering amid a fractured court? The lines between protector, manipulator, and ruler blur. A's reign was brief, lasting less than a decade, but it was marked by significant attempts to restore traditional religious practices after the revolutionary monotheism of Akhenaten. His restoration of the old gods and temples suggests a pragmatic ruler seeking stability. Yet, some scholars propose a more calculated agenda. Was A repositioning himself to secure his grip on power by aligning with conservative factions opposed to Akhenaten's radical reforms? The location and design of A's tomb in the Valley of the Kings offer further clues. Unlike the grandiose tombs of earlier pharaohs, his resting place is comparatively small, almost understated. Some interpret this as evidence of a ruler whose authority was contested or who feared posthumous erasure. Others speculate that this modesty reflects the turbulent times and the precariousness of his reign. The absence of a clear dynastic legacy, A left no known heir to the throne, adds to the intrigue. Did he intend to establish a new line, or was his kingship always meant to be temporary? Artifacts bearing A's cartouche have been discovered in contexts suggesting both reverence and ambivalence. Some show signs of deliberate defacement or alteration, sparking debate over whether later rulers sought to erase his memory. Could this be the mark of a usurper whose legitimacy was denied after death? Or was it simply the result of shifting political tides common in ancient Egypt? Adding to the mystery are whispers found in less formal records, fragments of court gossip, hints at palace intrigues, and possible conspiracies. Was A involved in the death of Tutankhamun, or did he merely seize an opportune moment? Did he wield real power, or was he a figurehead controlled by powerful priests or generals seeking to steer Egypt's fragile future? Some alternative theories even suggest connections between A and secretive cults or esoteric knowledge, implying that his rule had dimensions beyond the political realm. Did A possess hidden wisdom, or was he a pawn in a larger cosmic game, his short reign a brief flicker in a vast, inscrutable design? As we examine the artifacts, inscriptions, and architectural remains associated with Pharaoh A, the picture remains tantalizingly incomplete. Each discovery raises new questions about identity, legitimacy, and power in a kingdom at the crossroads of change. Was A the master of his fate, or a man shaped and ultimately overshadowed by forces beyond his control? In contemplating Pharaoh A, we are invited to peer beyond the surface of history and consider the complexities of leadership, ambition, and survival in ancient Egypt's twilight years. The answers remain elusive, but the search itself opens a window into the delicate balance of order and chaos that defined one of the world's greatest civilizations. And so, the mystery endures, waiting patiently for those willing to look deeper into the past and uncover what might still lie hidden beneath the sands of time. Beneath the blistering Egyptian sun, the colossal statues of ancient gods and kings stand in eternal vigil, their stone eyes fixed on horizons both distant and near. As twilight fades and shadows deepen, these silent sentinels seem to take on a new presence, immovable yet somehow watchful, guarding secrets that have long eluded even the most skilled archaeologists and historians. The statues scattered across temple complexes, tombs, and sacred sites are marvels of craftsmanship, carved from granite, limestone, and sandstone with astonishing precision. Their sheer size commands awe, their features immortalizing rulers and deities with stoic grandeur. But beyond their artistry lies an enduring mystery. What were these figures truly meant to embody? Were they merely symbolic representations, or did they serve a deeper, perhaps spiritual or protective purpose? Historical records reveal that many of these statues were not placed at random. Guardians at temple entrances, colossal figures in tombs, and statues aligned along processional routes suggest a deliberate design, rooted in ancient Egyptian beliefs about protection, power, and the afterlife. The statues were thought to house the Ka, the life force or spirit, allowing the essence of a god or deceased to be present and active. This connection between stone and soul, though widely accepted, only scratches the surface of the enigma. Over centuries, stories have emerged of the statues' presence extending beyond their physical form. Locals recount tales of statues whose eyes seem to follow visitors, or which appear to shift imperceptibly when no one is watching. Are these merely illusions born of the human mind, or is there a kernel of truth in these whispers? Scientific studies on light and perception help explain some phenomena, but others resist easy classification. In more recent times, researchers using infrared and thermal imaging have noted unusual heat signatures and faint electromagnetic fields around certain statues. Could these findings hint at ancient technologies or forgotten rituals designed to animate the stone guardians in ways modern science has yet to fully understand? The notion challenges conventional archaeology, urging us to reconsider the limits of ancient Egyptian knowledge. Speculative theories abound. Some propose that the statues were imbued with protective spells, designed to ward off malevolent forces. Others suggest a form of ancient animism, where the divine presence within the statues was believed to be tangible and interactive. Could there have been a network of these stone sentinels working in unison, creating an unseen field of spiritual or energetic defense around sacred precincts? Further mysteries arise from statues found in unexpected contexts. Isolated pieces buried underground, fragments uncovered far from their original sites, or figures that show anachronistic features or craftsmanship styles inconsistent with their supposed era. What stories lie behind these displaced or altered guardians? Were they moved deliberately as part of secret rites, or displaced by time and conflict? The absence of records leaves these questions open, inviting ongoing investigation. The statue's silent watch continues through the night, as desert winds whisper through broken columns and sand drifts over carved feet. Their permanence contrasts sharply with the fleeting nature of human life and memory, yet their presence compels us to ask, what are they truly watching for? Protection from what threats? Witnesses to what forgotten histories? As we consider the silent statues, their stone faces unchanging over millennia, we are drawn into a reflection on permanence and mystery. They are monuments not only to kings and gods, but to the unknown dimensions of ancient Egyptian culture, dimensions that still challenge our understanding. The silent watchers invite us to look deeper, to question what remains hidden beneath the surface of stone and story. And so, the mystery endures, as timeless as the desert itself, urging us to wonder what truths these quiet sentinels guard in the stillness of night. The blistering sun beats down relentlessly on the dusty plains of the ancient Egyptian desert, where, scattered across the arid landscape, enormous stone jars rise from the sands, silent giants whose purpose remains shrouded in mystery. Towering several meters high and carved from solid limestone or alabaster, these massive vessels stand isolated, their surfaces worn smooth by millennia of wind and sand. Their sheer size and craftsmanship immediately capture the imagination, but it is their enigmatic function that continues to baffle archaeologists and historians alike. At first glance, these giant jars might appear as nothing more than utilitarian containers, designed to hold grain, water, or oil. Indeed, large storage vessels were common in ancient Egypt, used to support daily life and the needs of vast temple complexes. Yet, these particular jars defy simple categorization. Their size far exceeds any practical necessity known from the period, and their locations, often far from settlements or obvious storage facilities, raise questions about their intended role. Why transport and carve such massive objects only to leave them scattered across seemingly random desert expanses? Historical records offer little insight. There are no surviving inscriptions or texts that describe these stone jars, no written instructions hinting at their purpose. Excavations reveal that some jars were deliberately buried or partially submerged, suggesting ritualistic use rather than mundane storage. Others are found in proximity to temple ruins or tombs, hinting at a possible connection to sacred or funerary practices. Traditional Egyptology suggests that these jars might have been used in the preparation or storage of sacred substances, perfumes, oils, or even offerings intended for the gods or the deceased. But how to reconcile their immense size with such delicate contents? Could the jars have served as symbolic vessels, representing containment on a monumental scale? Or were they perhaps part of ancient water management systems designed to collect and channel scarce desert moisture? Intriguingly, some jars exhibit interior surfaces polished to a mirror-like finish, while others bear traces of mineral deposits or residues that defy easy identification. Scientific analyses have yielded conflicting results, with some jars containing remnants of organic materials and others seemingly void of any contents. Was this variability a reflection of different functions or evolving uses over centuries? Speculation grows when considering the jar's placement within the broader landscape. Satellite imagery reveals that clusters of these jars align along specific axes or patterns, possibly corresponding to astronomical events or sacred geographies. Could these massive stone containers have served as markers or tools in ancient Egyptian cosmology, linking earthly terrain to celestial cycles? Were they part of an elaborate system of symbolic geography, where each jar held meaning far beyond its physical form? Further puzzling is the labor investment required to quarry, transport, and carve these jars. Ancient Egypt's mastery of stonework is undeniable, but the scale and isolation of these jars prompt questions about the motivations behind their creation. Was it a demonstration of power and devotion, a physical manifestation of divine presence? Or could these jars have served a now-lost practical purpose, rendered obsolete or forgotten through the passage of time? Fringe theories add layers of intrigue. Some propose the jars were ancient cooling systems using evaporative techniques to preserve perishables in the desert heat. Others suggest they were connected to esoteric rituals involving sound or vibration, where the jars functioned as resonant chambers in sacred ceremonies. While these ideas lack definitive evidence, they invite us to consider the ingenuity and complexity of ancient Egyptian culture beyond conventional interpretations. As researchers continue to study these giant stone jars, employing advanced imaging and chemical analysis, new clues emerge yet often deepen the mystery. Each jar is a silent enigma, a colossal question carved from stone, standing guard over secrets lost to time. What messages were the ancient builders trying to convey? What rituals or technologies might these massive vessels have supported? The giant stone jars beckon us to look beyond the surface, to ponder the intersection of art, utility, and spirituality in ancient Egypt. They remind us that history is not always neatly packaged. Sometimes it is hidden beneath layers of sand, stone, and silence, waiting for patient minds to uncover its meaning. And so, the jars remain, immovable and inscrutable, inviting us to wonder what truths they hold, buried in the shadow of the desert sun, waiting still to be discovered. The desert winds sweep across the ruins of a once great kingdom, carrying with them whispers of forgotten kings and lost dynasties. Among these echoes lies the puzzling tale of MERNEPTAH, a pharaoh whose reign marked the twilight of Egypt's golden age, yet whose lineage seems to have vanished into the sands of time, leaving behind more questions than answers. MERNEPTAH ascended the throne as the 13th son of Ramesses II, one of Egypt's most celebrated rulers. Despite his late birth, MERNEPTAH claimed power in a period marked by political turbulence and external threats. His reign, though relatively brief, was notable for the famous MERNEPTAH stele, an inscription that contains the earliest known reference to Israel and chronicles military campaigns that secured Egypt's borders. Yet, beyond this historic tablet and scant royal records, the details of MERNEPTAH's family and descendants remain frustratingly sparse. In a civilization renowned for meticulous record-keeping, the sudden disappearance of MERNEPTAH's lineage is striking. Royal tombs were typically lavishly constructed, inscribed with genealogies, and filled with treasures to accompany pharaohs into the afterlife. Yet, the burial places of MERNEPTAH's direct heirs are either unlocated or unidentified. Some suggest his successors' tombs were deliberately concealed or destroyed, while others argue the royal bloodline simply faded due to premature deaths or political intrigue. The mystery deepens when examining the historical context. MERNEPTAH's reign came at a crossroads, an era when Egypt faced mounting pressure from Libyan tribes and the enigmatic Sea Peoples, whose incursions altered the balance of power in the eastern Mediterranean. Could these external threats have played a role in the abrupt disappearance of his lineage? Was the royal family fractured, forced into exile, or erased in the ensuing chaos? Archaeological excavations provide tantalizing but incomplete clues. Tombs and artifacts bearing names similar to MERNEPTAH's descendants have been uncovered in different parts of Egypt, but their precise identities remain uncertain. Inscriptions hint at family members who held significant titles, yet their ultimate fates are undocumented. Meanwhile, some scholars propose that the royal line may have intermarried with other noble families, diluting direct claims and complicating the historical record. Speculation extends further into the realm of more controversial theories. Some fringe historians suggest that MERNEPTAH's descendants might have been deliberately erased from official history as part of a palace coup or dynastic power struggle, their names excised to legitimize rival claimants. Others propose that a secret branch of the family could have fled south or east, settling far from the Nile Valley, thereby scattering the lineage beyond recognition. Could it be that the vanished lineage is less a disappearance and more a transformation? Ancient Egyptian succession was not always linear. Rival factions, usurpers, and regional governors often complicated inheritance. Might MERNEPTAH's bloodline have persisted under different names or titles, woven into the complex tapestry of Egypt's late 19th and early 20th dynasties? Moreover, the enigmatic nature of MERNEPTAH's mummy itself adds another layer to the puzzle. Discovered centuries ago, the mummy's condition and identification have been subjects of debate. Some modern forensic analyses question whether the remains truly belong to MERNEPTAH, while others note signs of violent injury or post-mortem disturbance. Could these clues hint at untold stories of palace intrigue, assassination, or ritual defilement designed to erase a king's legacy? As we reflect on the vanishing of MERNEPTAH's lineage, the wider implications resonate beyond mere genealogy. What does this gap in history reveal about the fragility of power and memory in ancient civilizations? How many other stories lie lost, hidden beneath the layers of stone and sand, waiting for discovery? The story of MERNEPTAH and his vanished heirs invites us to contemplate the limits of historical certainty. It is a reminder that history, though grounded in artifacts and texts, is also shaped by silence, by what is not recorded, what is deliberately concealed, or what has simply faded over time. So, as we gaze upon the relics and ruins connected to MERNEPTAH's reign, we are left with a profound question. beneath the grandeur in the stone lies a lineage that once shaped a civilization, now vanished. What secrets might still linger in the shadows of history, waiting for the light to reveal them? The shifting sands of Egypt hold many secrets, but few are as deeply entwined with the soul of this ancient civilization as the practice of mummification. For millennia, the art of preserving the body after death was a cornerstone of Egyptian culture, a ritual woven into their beliefs about life, death, and the hereafter. Yet, as we turn back the clock beyond the grandeur of the dynasties, before the mighty pyramids and sprawling temples, we find ourselves confronting a profound enigma. How did mummification begin, and what mysteries lie buried in the dawn of this sacred tradition? In the pre-dynastic era, some 5,000 years ago or more, the Nile Valley was home to scattered communities learning to live alongside the river's ebb and flow. Archaeological discoveries reveal that even before the formalized rituals of the dynastic period, bodies were being deliberately treated after death. But these early mummification practices differ significantly from the elaborate embalming methods immortalized in later epochs. Without the sophisticated chemical processes, resin applications, or linen wrappings that characterize the New Kingdom, how were these early bodies preserved? And what motivated these ancient people to attempt such preservation at all? Evidence from ancient burial sites offers glimpses into these origins. In tombs dating back to roughly 3,500 BCE, archaeologists have uncovered remains that show signs of intentional desiccation, a rudimentary form of preservation. Natural elements such as dry desert sand and heat likely played a role, but there are hints of deliberate intervention. Some bodies were placed in positions or wrapped in materials that slowed decay. Yet, the precise techniques, the choice of substances, and the underlying cultural significance remain elusive. As the dynasties arose and Egypt's civilization blossomed, mummification became ritualized, codified in religious texts and overseen by specialized priests. The process evolved into a complex science and sacred art, intended to ensure the deceased's safe passage to the afterlife. But what can the earliest forms of mummification tell us about the origins of these beliefs? Were the earliest preservations simply practical attempts to keep the dead intact, or did they already hold spiritual meaning? Some researchers propose that these early mummies reflect an innate human desire to connect with eternity, to resist the finality of death. But if so, how did these notions crystallize into the elaborate funerary rites we recognize today? Is it possible that a deeper, more ancient knowledge about the human body and the soul's journey was encoded in these nascent practices? Intriguingly, recent excavations in remote desert cemeteries have unearthed bodies exhibiting unexpected preservation, sometimes predating the earliest known dynastic records. The question arises, were these isolated communities experimenting with early embalming techniques independently? Or was there an exchange of knowledge across regions, perhaps with neighboring cultures whose practices remain less understood? This line of inquiry opens even more profound questions. Could some elements of pre-dynastic mummification have been influenced by forgotten or lost cultures? Might early Egyptians have inherited rituals from a more ancient, now vanished civilization? If so, what secrets might those vanished peoples have held regarding life, death, and the cosmos? While modern science has advanced our understanding of mummification through chemical analyses and forensic studies, certain anomalies remain unexplained. For example, how did early embalmers discover the natural preservatives necessary to delay decay? Did they stumble upon these substances by trial and error, or was there a system of knowledge passed down through oral tradition? The absence of written records from these formative times only deepens the mystery. The unanswered questions invite us to reflect on the origins of one of humanity's most profound rituals. The transition from simple, natural preservation to the highly ritualized process of dynastic Egypt suggests a long, gradual evolution, not a sudden invention. Yet, the gaps in the archaeological and historical record challenge us to consider what stories remain hidden, buried beneath the sands. As we peer into the earliest mummification practices, we stand at the threshold of ancient wisdom, where science, spirituality, and mystery converge. The shadows cast by the pre-dynastic desert remind us that the past is never truly silent. It whispers through the remnants left behind, urging us to listen closely. What the truths about death and the afterlife were first glimpsed by these early Egyptians? What techniques and beliefs did they pass on, and which were lost to time? And what still lies buried, waiting to be uncovered beneath Egypt's endless sands? The desert sun casts long, shifting shadows over the vast necropolis of Abydos, one of ancient Egypt's most sacred sites, a place where history and myth intertwine in an intricate dance that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and seekers of the mysterious for centuries. Nestled beneath the surface, hidden among countless tombs and temples, is a chamber long whispered about in hushed tones. A chamber said to hold the very essence of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and eternal life. To approach Abydos is to walk through layers of time itself. The air here is thick with the weight of millennia, a solemn atmosphere punctuated by the faded carvings and eroded reliefs that tell stories of kings and gods, life and death, endings and new beginnings. The ancient Egyptians believed Abydos was the burial place of Osiris, and its soil consecrated by the god's own presence. But what lies beneath, beyond what the eye can see and what the written records reveal, remains a riddle wrapped in sacred mystery. Excavations at Abydos have uncovered many temples and burial sites, notably the Temple of Seti I, renowned for its exquisite craftsmanship and the famed Abydos King List, a chronological record of pharaohs that links Egypt's earthly rulers with divine authority. Yet, amid these marvels, the chamber said to hold Osiris himself remains elusive, its exact location uncertain, its purpose debated. The legend of Osiris is inseparable from this place. According to myth, Osiris was slain and dismembered by his brother Set, scattered across Egypt, only to be reassembled and resurrected by his devoted wife, Isis. Abydos was believed to be the final resting place of this reconstituted god, a symbolic anchor for the promise of life after death. Pilgrims from all corners of Egypt journeyed here, hoping to connect with Osiris's power of regeneration. Archaeologists have identified several subterranean chambers within the necropolis, some of which align with the descriptions found in ancient texts. However, none have definitively been confirmed as Osiris's burial chamber. Modern technology, such as ground-penetrating radar and advanced scanning, has revealed voids and cavities suggesting undiscovered spaces, but exploration is constrained by the fragility of the site and the limits of current methods. What fuels speculation even further are the enigmatic artifacts and inscriptions associated with Abydos, hinting at hidden knowledge. Some carvings suggest secret rituals and forbidden chambers accessible only to the highest priests, spaces where the divine and mortal worlds blurred. Could one of these chambers be the one linked to Osiris? If so, what might it contain? Relics, texts, or symbols that reveal ancient beliefs about death and rebirth in ways yet to be understood. Beyond mainstream archaeology, more speculative theories have emerged. Some propose that the chamber may hold advanced knowledge or technology left by ancient priests, knowledge lost to time but encoded in myth. Others suggest that the chamber was deliberately concealed to protect it from tomb robbers or invading forces, preserving sacred mysteries for future generations. Could it be a metaphorical chamber, an allegory for spiritual transformation rather than a physical space? Or is there an actual hidden sanctum still waiting beneath the sands? The interplay between history and myth here resists easy explanation. Abydos is a place where the tangible and intangible coexist, where the quest for empirical evidence intersects with humanity's enduring need for meaning beyond death. The chamber said to hold Osiris invites us to consider how much of ancient Egypt's spiritual life remains unread, buried beneath stone and story. This lingering mystery challenges modern perspectives on the past. It asks whether we have uncovered all there is to know or merely scratched the surface. Are the lost chambers of Abydos silent witnesses to secrets that could reshape our understanding of Egyptian cosmology? Or are they reminders of the limits of human knowledge, sacred spaces meant to remain beyond reach? As the sun sets over Abydos, casting the desert into twilight, the question remains: what truths might the chamber of Osiris still guard? Beneath layers of dust, stone, and legend, does the heart of ancient Egypt still beat quietly in the shadows, waiting for discovery? Beneath the sprawling sands and monumental silhouette of the Giza Plateau, where the Great Pyramid rises with silent grandeur against the desert sky, there may lie a secret yet to be fully unveiled, a temple lost beneath the bedrock itself. This hidden structure, whispered about in fragments of ancient lore and hinted at by subtle geological anomalies, invites us to look deeper, beyond the familiar monuments, into the very foundations of Egypt's most iconic landscape. The Giza Plateau has long been a focal point of Egypt's ancient grandeur. It is a place where human ambition, spiritual devotion, and architectural genius converged. The pyramids themselves, monuments to eternity, have been studied exhaustively, yet their surroundings continue to yield surprises. Among these is the tantalizing suggestion that beneath the bedrock, beneath the surface of what we see and understand, lies a temple older, perhaps more sacred, and certainly more mysterious. Early Egyptologists and modern researchers alike have noted irregularities in the bedrock around the pyramids. These include subterranean cavities and tunnels whose purposes remain unclear. Some were known since antiquity, the so-called Osiris shaft beneath the Great Pyramid being a notable example. But other formations, subtle depressions, and voids detected through remote sensing technologies hint at the presence of man-made structures concealed beneath layers of stone and sand. The idea of a temple hidden beneath Giza's bedrock is not merely speculation born of wishful thinking. It emerges from careful observation. Ancient Egyptians often built their sacred sites in relation to natural features, rock outcrops, caves, and riverbanks, infusing these places with divine significance. Could it be that the bedrock beneath Giza was sculpted, carved, and consecrated in ways that have yet to be fully recognized? If so, what rituals or ceremonies might have taken place within such a hidden sanctuary? The temple's potential existence raises compelling questions about the origins and evolution of religious practice in ancient Egypt. The Great Pyramid itself is often viewed primarily as a tomb, a monumental resting place for Pharaoh Khufu. Yet, the spiritual landscape of Giza may have been far richer and more complex. A temple beneath the bedrock could represent an older cultic site, a sacred precinct predating the pyramids, or a secret chamber reserved for esoteric rites known only to the priesthood. Some texts and inscriptions found in the region allude to underground places of worship and chambers dedicated to deities like Hathor or Anubis. These gods were closely associated with protection, transition, and the afterlife, concepts intimately tied to the necropolis. Could the lost temple be connected to such deities, its purpose intertwined with the journey of the soul, or the safeguarding of the royal dead. Archaeological technology has begun to uncover more about what lies beneath the surface, but the story is far from complete. Ground-penetrating radar, muon tomography, and other innovative methods have mapped voids and structural anomalies. Yet the exact nature of these spaces remains unknown. Are these natural caverns, burial chambers, or the remnants of a forgotten temple complex? Without direct excavation, which is often limited by the need to preserve the integrity of the Great Pyramid and the surrounding monuments, the answers remain tantalizingly out of reach. Speculation naturally grows in the absence of firm evidence. Some suggest that the temple beneath Giza's bedrock might have held secret knowledge, astronomical, spiritual, or architectural, passed down from earlier civilizations or priestly classes. Others propose that it served as a symbolic underworld, a sacred space where initiates journeyed through trials of death and rebirth, mirroring the cosmic cycles revered by the Egyptians. Could the temple be part of a larger, interconnected network of subterranean chambers stretching across the Giza Plateau? Might it reveal lost chapters of ancient Egypt's history? Narratives deliberately concealed from the public eye, preserved only in whispers and shadows. And if so, what does this tell us about the relationship between the visible monuments and the hidden layers beneath them? This mystery also invites us to reconsider how we define and understand ancient Egyptian sacred space. Were the monumental pyramids the only focus of religious life, or were they the visible apex of a more extensive spiritual geography that included secret temples, hidden chambers, and subterranean sanctuaries? The possibility that a temple rests beneath the bedrock suggests a continuity of sacred purpose, linking what we see above ground with what lies hidden below. As night falls over the Giza Plateau and the stars begin to wheel across the sky, the same constellations that once guided the builder's hands, the question lingers: what remains concealed beneath the stone? The bedrock, so seemingly solid and immutable, may yet guard chambers filled with echoes of ancient rituals, silent witnesses to a forgotten chapter of Egypt's spiritual heritage. In the end, the lost temple beneath Giza's bedrock stands as a testament to the enduring mystery of this land, an invitation to look beyond the known, to listen for the faintest traces of the past, and to wonder what secrets still lie buried in the shadows of one of the world's greatest wonders. Beneath the golden light of ancient Egypt's sun, where the Nile's gentle currents weave life into the desert, one flower captivates with an allure that extends far beyond its delicate petals: the blue lotus. Revered across centuries, this enigmatic bloom appears repeatedly in tomb paintings, temple reliefs, and funerary artifacts, its image a symbol of rebirth, purity, and divine connection. Yet, beneath its graceful form lies a ritual shrouded in mystery, a ritual whose true purpose and meaning continue to elude scholars and ignite the imagination of those who study Egypt's deepest secrets. The blue lotus, known to the ancient Egyptians as Nymphea caerulea, thrived along the Nile's banks, its blossoms opening in the morning sun and closing at dusk, a daily cycle that mirrored the eternal rhythms of life and death. Its depiction is ubiquitous: priests and pharaohs holding the flower in ritual, scenes of deities entwined with its stems, and even the scent of its petals said to fill the air during sacred ceremonies. But what exactly was the nature of the blue lotus ritual? Was it purely symbolic, or did it involve a sensory experience, perhaps an altered state of consciousness, that connected practitioners more intimately with the divine? Ancient texts, though fragmentary and often metaphorical, hint at the ritual's significance. The blue lotus is described as a flower of enlightenment and rejuvenation, a bridge between the mortal world and the realm of gods. Some inscriptions suggest that its aroma was inhaled to induce visions, or that its extract was consumed to transcend earthly boundaries. The imagery itself suggests more than mere decoration. It evokes a spiritual journey, a sacred communion facilitated by the flower's power. Yet, despite its prominence, details of the actual ritual remain vague and elusive, cloaked in symbolism and fragmented records. Archaeological findings offer some clues. Traces of blue lotus pollen and residues have been discovered in tombs and temple chambers, indicating the flower's role in burial rites and ceremonies honoring the dead. In certain well-preserved papyri, there are subtle references to the lotus as a catalyst for awakening the soul's passage to the afterlife, its essence a key to unlocking hidden realms. However, the precise method of preparation, administration, and the full extent of its effects remain subjects of debate. Was the ritual confined to the priestly elite, or was it more widespread, accessible to a broader swath of Egyptian society? Modern analysis of the blue lotus reveals psychoactive properties, compounds that can induce mild euphoria and altered perception. This has led some researchers to propose that the ritual might have involved deliberate use of these properties to facilitate trance states or spiritual visions. Could the ancient Egyptians have discovered, through empirical knowledge or divine insight, a way to harness this flower's effects for mystical purposes? Or was the blue lotus's sacredness entirely symbolic, a metaphor for the soul's renewal and divine favor? Speculation expands further when we consider the broader context of Egyptian ritual practice. The ancient Egyptians were masters of symbolism, and their rituals were layered with meaning accessible on multiple levels: spiritual, political, and cosmological. The blue lotus might have functioned simultaneously as a religious emblem, a tool for altered states, and a political symbol reinforcing the pharaoh's divine authority. How do we untangle these intertwined threads to grasp the ritual's true essence? In some fringe theories, the blue lotus ritual is linked to ancient initiation ceremonies, secret rites reserved for a spiritual elite. These interpretations imagine a clandestine tradition wherein the flower's properties were used to access hidden knowledge or communicate with the gods in ways ordinary mortals could not. While such theories remain speculative and lack direct evidence, they reflect the broader allure of the blue lotus as a symbol of mystery and transformation. Yet, even within mainstream scholarship, uncertainties persist. How did the ritual evolve over the millennia? Did the use of the blue lotus change between dynasties or across the varying religious landscapes of ancient Egypt? What role did it play in the daily lives of common people versus the priesthood? And how might our modern understanding be limited by the fragmentary nature of the surviving evidence? Perhaps the greatest enigma is the absence of explicit descriptions or instructions. Unlike many other Egyptian rituals meticulously recorded on temple walls and papyri, the blue lotus ritual remains largely implicit, experienced more through imagery and implication than through detailed documentation. Does this suggest the ritual was intentionally secretive, reserved for initiates? Or was it so commonplace that it escaped thorough chronicling? As we trace the delicate petals of this mystery, the blue lotus ritual reveals itself as a symbol of ancient Egypt's complex relationship with the sacred, an intersection of nature, spirituality, and human consciousness. It invites us to imagine a time when the boundaries between the physical world and the divine were permeable, navigated through sensory experience as much as belief. What truths remain locked within this ritual? How much knowledge has slipped through the cracks of history, waiting to be rediscovered in forgotten tombs or faded manuscripts? The blue lotus continues to bloom in the collective imagination, a flower at once beautiful and elusive, promising glimpses into a past where mystery and meaning entwined in ways we are only beginning to understand. So, as we ponder the riddle of the Blue Lotus ritual, we are left with a lingering question. What might the ancient Egyptians have truly known about the power of this flower? And what does it tell us about their quest to bridge the realms of life, death, and eternity? Beneath the shimmering gold and intricate jewels that adorned the tombs of Egypt's ancient royalty lies a puzzle that continues to captivate scholars and enthusiasts alike. A collection of relics whose origins seem to whisper of distant lands, far beyond the familiar borders of the Nile Valley. These are the echoes of non-Egyptian artifacts found within royal graves, objects that invite us to reconsider the story of Egypt, not as an isolated civilization but as a crossroads where cultures met, exchanged, and sometimes merged in ways that challenge our understanding of ancient history. Imagine entering the tomb of a pharaoh or queen, the air still heavy with the silence of millennia, the walls lined with hieroglyphs extolling divine kingship and eternal life. Among the carefully arranged funerary goods, golden amulets, painted coffins, ritual vessels, there are artifacts that do not fit neatly into the conventional narrative of Egypt's art and technology. Items crafted from materials sourced hundreds or even thousands of miles away, styles that echo foreign traditions, symbols unfamiliar to native Egyptian iconography. The presence of such relics is documented in several notable tombs, raising intriguing questions about their provenance and purpose. How did these objects find their way into the sacred burial chambers of Egyptian royalty? Were they gifts from distant allies, spoils of war, or perhaps objects carried by traders who traversed vast and perilous routes across the ancient world? Each possibility opens a new chapter in the story of Egypt's engagement with the broader ancient world. Some artifacts exhibit craftsmanship reminiscent of Mesopotamian, Nubian, or even Aegean origins. For instance, certain seals and jewelry pieces bear designs strikingly similar to those found in Sumerian or Minoan sites, with motifs that hint at shared mythologies or aesthetic principles. Others are fashioned from exotic materials: lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, obsidian from the Eastern Mediterranean, or rare woods from sub-Saharan Africa. Each piece a tangible link to a distant culture and a vast network of trade and diplomacy. Such findings complicate the image of Egypt as a self-contained empire. Instead, they suggest a civilization deeply enmeshed in a web of interactions, where ideas, goods, and perhaps even people traveled across continents. But beyond the practical realities of commerce and politics, these foreign relics may also carry symbolic weight. Their inclusion in royal tombs could reflect diplomatic relationships, the pharaoh's reach and influence, or spiritual beliefs that transcended cultural boundaries. Yet, as with many mysteries of the ancient world, definitive answers remain elusive. The motivations behind the burial of non-Egyptian objects are often obscured by time, and scholarly debate continues over whether they were valued primarily as exotic curiosities, tokens of alliance, or items imbued with magical or religious significance. Speculative theories abound, some suggesting that these relics indicate ancient Egyptians' awareness of, or even contact with, far-flung civilizations previously thought to be unknown to them. Could these objects hint at forgotten voyages or trade routes, long lost to history? Might they represent diplomatic gifts exchanged between rulers, symbolizing political alliances or shared divine sanction? Or perhaps, more provocatively, do they point toward the presence of foreign advisors, craftsmen, or even settlers integrated into Egyptian society, their customs leaving traces in royal burial practices? Others consider the possibility that the appearance of non-Egyptian relics in tombs reflects the Egyptian worldview itself, a civilization confident enough in its identity to embrace and incorporate the exotic, recognizing in these objects a resonance with universal themes of power, death, and eternity. The tomb, after all, was not merely a resting place but a microcosm of the cosmos, designed to ensure the deceased's safe passage into the afterlife. Could these foreign items have served as talismans or conduits, linking the pharaoh with distant divine forces or ancestral powers? While material evidence offers tantalizing glimpses, it also raises complex challenges. The archaeological record is patchy, and the provenance of some artifacts remains contested. Questions about the context of their discovery, the accuracy of early excavation reports, and potential looting complicate efforts to draw firm conclusions. Furthermore, distinguishing between genuine ancient trade or diplomatic exchange and later intrusive deposits is a delicate task requiring meticulous analysis. What remains clear is that these non-Egyptian relics disrupt neat historical boundaries and encourage us to view ancient Egypt through a more expansive lens, one that recognizes the fluidity of cultural identity and the dynamism of ancient interaction. They remind us that Egypt, while unique in its achievements and traditions, was never truly isolated. Instead, it was part of a vibrant, interconnected ancient world where ideas and objects flowed like the Nile itself, sometimes predictably, sometimes mysteriously. As we trace the paths of these foreign artifacts, a broader question emerges. How much of ancient history remains hidden in the margins, in the unspoken exchanges and subtle influences that defy easy classification? Could these relics be silent witnesses to stories of contact, cooperation, and exchange that have yet to be fully told? In pondering these questions, we return to the tombs themselves, the sacred chambers where Egyptian royalty prepared for eternity. The foreign objects they contain do not simply decorate the dead, they echo with the possibility of ancient connections reaching far beyond the known. And as we peer into these echoes, the boundaries between Egypt and the wider ancient world begin to blur, inviting us to reconsider what truths still lie buried beneath the sands of time. Beneath the serene surface of the Mediterranean, just off the coast of Alexandria, lies a hidden world, one that has remained submerged for millennia, slowly being reclaimed by the sea. Here, in the depths, an ancient city of the pharaohs waits, its stones encased in salt water, its secrets buried beneath the waves. This is not a mythical place, but one that modern archaeology has begun to unveil, an underwater city, long forgotten, yet bearing the unmistakable marks of Egypt's once glorious civilization. The discovery of this submerged city, known as Heracleion, or Thunis Heracleion, dates back to 2000, when a team of French underwater archaeologists, led by Frank Gaudio, began to explore the area near Alexandria. What they found was astounding. Large stone structures, colossal statues of Egyptian gods, and remnants of elaborate temples, once part of a thriving port city that was thought to have vanished from history. The ancient city, lost to time and perhaps to an event as dramatic as an earthquake or rising sea levels, had slipped beneath the waves and remained hidden for over 1,000 years. At first glance, the discovery of such a city seems like a dream come true for archaeologists. A city frozen in time, preserving not just the architecture but the life of the people who once lived there. The ruins, carefully preserved by the briny embrace of the Mediterranean, reveal much about Egypt's maritime prowess. Yet, even as we piece together these discoveries, the very existence of the city raises as many questions as it answers. Heracleion was no ordinary settlement. It was a bustling hub for trade and religion, its strategic location making it a critical port in the ancient world. According to the historical records of Herodotus and other ancient writers, it was here, on the Nile's delta, where Egyptian and foreign cultures met. It was a city that bridged the gap between Egypt's land-based rule and its naval dominance, operating as a commercial and cultural nexus. Yet, for all its importance, its disappearance is shrouded in mystery. Why and how did a city of such importance vanish? The story of Heracleon's destruction remains speculative, and its sudden fall beneath the waves is one of the most enduring mysteries surrounding the site. Some scholars suggest that the city may have been swallowed by the sea as the result of a massive earthquake or a series of catastrophic events. Others propose that gradual flooding over centuries may have led to the eventual submersion of the city, a process which could have been exacerbated by changes in the local climate or seismic activity. However, no single theory has been conclusively proven. What makes this discovery particularly intriguing is that, unlike other sunken cities, Heracleion was not entirely unknown before its rediscovery. Historical texts, particularly those of Herodotus, mention the city in passing, but these references were dismissed for centuries as myths or exaggerations. The city was thought to be a part of Egypt's rich but elusive maritime history, a part of the ancient world that had faded from the memory of the living. It wasn't until the team of archaeologists began their exploration that the first signs of the submerged city appeared. The first find, a large stone slab bearing Egyptian hieroglyphs, was an unmistakable confirmation that this was no ordinary sunken city but a genuine part of ancient Egyptian civilization. As excavations continued, an astonishing array of artifacts came to light. Statues of Egyptian gods and goddesses, some standing more than 10 feet tall, their features still remarkably well preserved, glistened in the depths. Among these, a large stone figure of the god Hapi, associated with the Nile's annual inundation, seemed almost alive, despite the centuries of saltwater exposure. Bronze objects, pottery, and even pieces of papyrus bearing ancient Egyptian script have all surfaced from the depths, painting a picture of the city as a place of immense wealth and religious significance. The submerged ruins are not just a time capsule of Egypt's religious and cultural life, but also a striking reminder of how interconnected the ancient Mediterranean world was. The artifacts discovered in Heracleion suggest that the city's residents were not merely Egyptians, but part of a complex web of trade, politics, and culture that included Greece, Phoenicia, and beyond. Foreign objects, such as Greek-style pottery and Phoenician inscriptions, hint at the interactions that Heracleion may have had with other powerful civilizations of the ancient world. But perhaps the most fascinating question is why the city has remained hidden for so long. Despite its prominence in ancient times, the ruins of Heracleion disappeared from historical records. Could it have been deliberately erased from memory? Some have speculated that the city's fall was so sudden and complete that it left no trace of its existence in the annals of history. Others suggest that the Nile's changing course, along with the natural decay of the land, might have led to the gradual burial of the city beneath layers of silt and sand. Still, there are more provocative theories that suggest the city's disappearance might have been linked to an extraordinary event. Could it have been a victim of a cataclysmic event? Perhaps an earthquake or massive flooding, so severe that it caused parts of the land to sink into the sea? Some even suggest the possibility of ancient knowledge of catastrophic events or ancient seafaring technology capable of submerging entire settlements. While these theories remain speculative, they add to the allure and mystery surrounding the sunken city. The underwater city of the Pharaohs holds many unanswered questions. As archaeologists continue to dive into the depths, new discoveries are made, but so too are new questions raised. The preservation of ancient Egyptian cities beneath the Mediterranean waves is as much a symbol of Egypt's enduring legacy as it is a reminder of how much remains lost, yet waiting to be uncovered. Could Heracleion be the key to understanding the connections between Egypt and its neighbors? or will it remain a reminder of the fragile impermanence of human civilization? As we delve deeper into the sands of time, we find ourselves constantly reaching for the lost fragments of a world once thought to be beyond reach, only to realize that the more we uncover, the more questions remain. In the stillness of the waters, the city waits, its secrets murmuring beneath the waves. Perhaps in time the full story will emerge, but for now, Heraclean remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries of the ancient world, inviting us to wonder just how much of ancient Egypt and its interactions with the world still lies hidden beneath the surface. For thousands of years, Egypt's vast and enduring legacy has been closely tied to its royalty, with the tombs of its kings and queens standing as both sacred markers of power and haunting reminders of mortality. These final resting places, etched into the landscape of the desert, hidden within the shadow of towering pyramids or tucked into the craggy cliffs of the Valley of the Kings, tell stories of a civilization obsessed with immortality. Yet, amid the awe-inspiring tombs of Egypt's most celebrated rulers, there are other stories that remain untold, their whispers almost lost to history. One such story is that of a forgotten queen, a royal figure whose tomb remains elusive, yet whose presence continues to echo through the sands of time. The search for the lost tomb of a queen has captivated archaeologists and historians for centuries. This particular mystery, unlike the well-documented discoveries of more famous royal tombs, presents a puzzle that is shrouded not just in physical obscurity, but also in the very identity of the queen herself. While her name may have once graced the royal annals of Egypt, it has since faded, leaving behind only a trail of faint clues. The question, then, is not just where her tomb might be, but who this queen was and why history seems to have forgotten her. As the story often goes, the search for the tomb of this mysterious queen began with fragments of ancient records. In the tombs of more famous kings and queens, scattered references to a queen's name appeared, sometimes etched in the margins of hieroglyphic inscriptions, or mentioned in passing within royal texts that detailed the reigns of various pharaohs. Her name, once widely known, had been lost to the ages. Some believe she was a lesser-known queen, perhaps a consort to one of Egypt's great pharaohs, whose power and influence were erased by time or political upheaval. Other scholars suggest that she might have been a ruler in her own right, her reign overshadowed by the male-dominated narrative of ancient Egyptian dynastic history. The intrigue deepens when we look to the tombs of Egypt's royal families. While the tombs of the better-known queens, such as Nefertiti and Cleopatra, have either been discovered or their locations identified, the tomb of this unknown queen eludes even the most dedicated of researchers. Historical records hint at her role, but they do not tell us where her final resting place might lie. Could it be that her tomb was deliberately hidden, concealed by her successors, or perhaps even by later dynasties? Or is it possible that her tomb remains buried, lost under the shifting sands, waiting to be uncovered by the right set of eyes and the right tools? In the Valley of the Kings, where many of Egypt's most renowned pharaohs and queens rest, the search for this tomb has become a focal point of modern archaeological expeditions. In recent years, advanced techniques such as ground-penetrating radar, laser scanning, and 3D mapping have revealed new, previously undetected chambers beneath the surface. Some have speculated that the lost tomb of the queen may lie hidden in one of these unexplored areas, a darkened cave beneath the layers of sediment that have accumulated over centuries. If so, what treasures might still lie preserved within her tomb? The promise of gold, jeweled artifacts, and intricately painted walls that recount her life and reign lures archaeologists to dig deeper. Despite the technological advancements, the search remains frustratingly elusive. while some sites have yielded partial findings, broken pottery, remnants of her royal insignia, or fragments of inscriptions that reference her name. None have provided the smoking gun that would confirm the Queen's tomb's location. And so, the mystery remains. Why, with all the wealth of knowledge and technology available today, do we still find ourselves searching in vain for this forgotten Queen's resting place? One theory posits that the tomb may have been deliberately destroyed or hidden by later rulers, perhaps to erase the memory of a ruler whose reign was seen as politically inconvenient, or whose tomb might have been considered a threat to the established order. Throughout Egypt's history, it was not uncommon for rulers to have their predecessors' monuments defaced or erased from memory. The ancient Egyptians were known to perform what's called damnatio memoriae, a form of damnation in which the names and deeds of former kings and queens were literally erased from the historical record. Could this forgotten queen have been the victim of such a campaign? Did her tomb fall victim to a purge? And if so, who would have had the power to erase her from history? Another possibility is that the queen was never meant to be buried in a grand and monumental tomb like the pharaohs. Some experts believe that she may have been buried in a more modest location, away from the grand royal necropolises. It's not unusual for lesser-known royals, particularly female figures, to have been buried in tombs that were not as elaborate as those of the reigning pharaohs. These simpler tombs, often hidden in more remote locations, may have been overlooked or never discovered in the first place. Could the queen have been buried in such a hidden tomb, far from the Grand Valley of the Kings, perhaps within a lesser-known, undiscovered necropolis? There's also the tantalizing theory that the tomb could lie beneath the sands of Giza, not far from the Great Pyramids. Given the wealth and power of the queens associated with the Fourth Dynasty, particularly the queens of Khufu, it is conceivable that an undiscovered tomb may still await beneath the sprawling necropolis of the Giza Plateau. But why has this tomb remained so elusive? Could it be that the queen was of such importance that her tomb was constructed to be hidden from all who came after her? As archaeologists continue to search, each discovery raises new questions about the identity of this mysterious queen. Could she have been a figure whose reign was overshadowed by the grandeur of more famous rulers, yet whose influence still reverberated in the events of her time? Or was her power so subtle, her legacy so quiet, that only faint traces remain of her existence? Theories abound, but no one knows for sure. The tomb of this forgotten queen, if it does exist, represents not just a physical mystery, but a cultural one. What does her absence in the historical record tell us about how ancient Egypt viewed its rulers? How much of Egypt's history has been obscured, forgotten, or deliberately hidden? The more we look, the more we realize how much remains unexplored, hidden beneath the sands, within the walls of unexcavated tombs, or veiled by the passage of time. Perhaps the tomb of this lost queen is out there, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps it will remain one of the many mysteries of Egypt that time refuses to release. Either way, the search continues. Beneath the endless sweep of Egypt's desert skies, where the shifting sands tell tales older than any stone, there exists a subtle yet profound enigma. Symbols etched not in rock or papyrus, but into the very landscape itself. These are the sacred signs seemingly drawn by the invisible hand of the wind, patterns carved into the earth that defy easy explanation, yet invite a deeper contemplation of their origins and purpose. From the air, these enigmatic marks emerge like faint whispers etched across the barren sands. Unlike the grand pyramids or towering temples, these patterns are subtle, often overlooked. Lines and shapes formed by the careful arrangement of stones, depressions in the earth, or the absence of vegetation. They stretch across vast expanses, some measuring hundreds of meters, and in their geometry, there is a deliberate, almost hypnotic rhythm. Archaeologists have documented numerous such ground markings scattered around Egypt, particularly near ancient settlements and sacred sites. Some resemble abstract motifs, others geometric figures, circles, spirals, and zigzags that evoke a language lost to time. What purpose did these marks serve? Were they territorial boundaries, astronomical calendars, or ritual pathways? The more we examine them, the more layers of mystery unfold. The most compelling aspect of these wind-etched symbols lies in their elusive nature. Unlike carvings on stone, which endure for millennia, these earthworks are vulnerable to the relentless desert winds and shifting sands. Yet, they persist, suggesting a careful, ongoing maintenance or a resilience born of their very design. How did the ancient Egyptians create such expansive, precise patterns without the modern tools of surveying or aerial perspective? What knowledge and skill were required to coordinate these earthworks across the vast desert canvas? Traditional explanations often point to practical or ceremonial functions. Some propose these symbols acted as navigation aids for travelers across the featureless desert, guiding caravans safely between oases and temples. Others speculate they marked sacred boundaries, delineating spaces reserved for ritual or marking pilgrimage routes aligned with the celestial events. The notion that they may have served as an early form of map or calendar is compelling, especially given the Egyptians' profound astronomical knowledge. Yet, as intriguing as these theories are, they leave room for deeper questions. Why do many of these earth symbols incorporate patterns not commonly seen in Egyptian art or iconography? Could they represent an archaic symbolic language, predating even the hieroglyphs? If so, what might they tell us about the spiritual or cultural beliefs of prehistoric peoples whose traces are faint or erased? Speculative interpretations extend even further. Some suggest these ground symbols could be the footprints of ancient rituals performed beneath the open sky, ceremonies where the earth itself was inscribed as a sacred text, visible only from the heavens. Could they have been designed for the gods, a language meant to be read by celestial beings or the afterlife itself? Such notions echo the mysteries of the Nazca lines in South America, inviting comparisons that cross continents and epochs. The idea of these symbols as a form of communication with otherworldly forces or distant civilizations invites us to consider the broader human impulse to inscribe meaning onto the landscape. What do these vast, windswept canvases reveal about how ancient peoples perceived their place in the cosmos? Were these symbols a way to assert dominion over the desert, or an offering of harmony between humans and the unseen powers of nature? Modern technology has shed some light on these enigmatic marks. Satellite imagery and drone surveys reveal details invisible from the ground, uncovering new symbols and patterns. Yet, with each discovery, the mystery deepens. Some formations seem to align with solstices and equinoxes, while others point toward distant landmarks or obscure geological features. Are these alignments intentional or coincidental? Could the landscape itself have been a dynamic, living map, part astronomy chart, part sacred scripture? One cannot ignore the possibility that some of these patterns reflect a form of prehistoric storytelling, encoding myths, histories, or cosmologies into the earth. If so, what narratives have been lost, buried beneath millennia of sand and silence? How might these symbols connect to the rich tapestry of Egyptian mythology, with its pantheon of gods who personified natural forces and cosmic order? While mainstream archaeology approaches these earthworks cautiously, emphasizing verified evidence and contextual understanding, the allure of their unknown purpose continues to spark imaginative hypotheses. Could the creation of such vast symbols have been a communal effort? uniting disparate tribes or groups in a shared spiritual endeavor? Might they have functioned as a form of ancient social cohesion, a collective expression of identity and belief inscribed on the world itself? Yet, even as we contemplate these possibilities, the fundamental mystery remains. Why are so many of these symbols unmarked by any accompanying text or inscription? Unlike the hieroglyphs that adorn tombs and temples, these patterns offer no clear key to their meaning. We are left to interpret through patterns and context, piecing together fragments of intention from the faintest traces. And so, as the desert winds continue to shape and reshape the landscape, the sacred symbols etched into the wind remain a silent enigma. They remind us that some of the oldest stories are written not on stone or parchment, but on the earth beneath our feet. Stories that call for patient observation, open minds, and the humility to accept that some truths may forever lie just beyond our grasp. What ancient messages do these patterns hold? Who inscribed them, and why? Are we glimpsing a language of the gods, a ritual of the earth, or simply the marks of human presence in a vast wilderness? The answers linger in the desert breeze, waiting for those willing to listen to the whispers carried on the wind. Beneath the soaring columns and intricately carved walls of Egypt's ancient temples, there exists a dimension often overlooked. A realm not merely shaped by stone and light, but by sound itself. The temples, constructed with meticulous precision and adorned with sacred iconography, resonate not only with the chants of priests and the whispers of pilgrims, but, perhaps, with a deeper acoustic purpose that modern ears have only begun to glimpse. Imagine stepping into one of these vast halls, say the Temple of Karnak or the enigmatic Dendera complex. The air is cool and still, yet carries an invisible presence. As your footsteps echo softly across polished stone floors, you might sense a subtle vibration in the walls, a quality of resonance that seems almost deliberate. The architecture itself appears to embrace sound, shaping it as carefully as it shapes light and shadow. Recent studies of these ancient sites have revealed that their design often incorporates acoustic properties that enhance or manipulate sound in unusual ways. Curved ceilings, narrow corridors, and specific stone arrangements create echoes, amplify frequencies, and even isolate certain tones. Researchers measuring reverberations have found that chanting in these spaces can produce sound waves that linger far longer than expected, seemingly crafted to induce a heightened sensory experience. Why would the architects of millennia past consider sound so carefully in their constructions? Was it merely incidental, a byproduct of stone architecture, or could it have held ritual significance, integral to the spiritual functions of the temple? After all, sound has long been recognized in many cultures as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a force capable of altering consciousness and opening pathways to other realms. Within the sacred Egyptian worldview, the spoken word and music were potent tools. The heka, or magical power of speech, was believed to shape reality itself. Incantations and hymns performed within temple walls were not mere performances. They were acts of creation and invocation, words that carried the god's presence into the mortal realm. Could the physical space of the temple have been designed to harness and amplify this power? Exploring these questions, some scholars have begun to analyze how acoustic phenomena may have been intentionally embedded within temple design. The shape and placement of chambers could have been chosen to amplify the human voice or to create specific sound effects that enhanced ritual impact. Certain spaces produce a deep hum or a clear echo that might align with the frequencies used in chants and prayers. This line of inquiry opens a fascinating intersection between architecture, spirituality, and sensory experience. If ancient builders were attuned to the subtleties of sound, their temples might have functioned as enormous musical instruments, where the interplay of voices and stone created sacred soundscapes. Such an understanding invites us to imagine ceremonies not only as visual and symbolic rituals, but as immersive auditory journeys. Yet, the deeper mystery emerges when we consider whether some acoustic effects were intended to produce altered states of consciousness, trances or visions, facilitated by the temple's sonic environment. Modern research into sound healing and brainwave entrainment shows that certain frequencies can influence mood, perception, and even neurological states. Could the resonant qualities of temple chambers have played a role in spiritual transformation, guiding worshippers beyond the physical into the divine? This possibility, while captivating, remains speculative. Archaeological evidence directly linking acoustic design to specific ritual functions is scarce, and interpreting the intentions of ancient builders through sound is inherently challenging. But the correlation between architectural acoustics and religious practice hints at a sophisticated knowledge, an ancient science of resonance that transcends simple construction. Even more intriguing are reports from temple visitors and explorers who describe inexplicable sensations. Vibrations felt deep in the chest, voices seeming to multiply and circle around, or an overwhelming sense of presence within these sacred spaces. While such experiences may be subjective, they underscore the undeniable power of sound to shape human perception. Some fringe theories push these ideas further, suggesting that the temple's sound design might have been part of forgotten technologies or ancient rituals lost to history. Could the ancient Egyptians have understood and harnessed acoustic energy in ways that modern science is only beginning to explore? Were these sonic architectures intended not just to honor the gods, but to interact with unseen forces, perhaps even tapping into frequencies beyond ordinary human hearing? While these notions remain outside the consensus of mainstream archaeology, they reflect an enduring fascination with the ways in which ancient people may have manipulated the senses to create sacred experience. Whether through the rhythmic chanting of priests, the resonant hum of temple stones, or the harmonic convergence of space and sound, these mysteries invite us to rethink the very nature of the ancient Egyptian temple, not simply as a physical structure but as a living vessel of sound and spirit. As the sunlight fades behind towering pylons and the desert wind stirs the dust beyond temple walls, we are left to wonder what symphonies of the past still echo within these stones. What secrets do these silent chambers hold about the power of sound, and how deeply did it shape the ancient world's understanding of the divine? The answers remain elusive, a delicate interplay of fact, theory, and imagination. Yet the hum of the temples endures, a subtle reminder that beneath the grandeur of stone and story there lies a world shaped not only by sight and touch, but by the intangible waves of sound, waiting patiently to be heard once again. Beneath the unforgiving glare of the Egyptian sun, amid the rows of statues that stand sentinel in tombs and temples, there exist figures that appear, at first glance, almost ordinary. Yet, closer inspection reveals a peculiar subtlety. These statues, often carved in stone with impeccable detail, occasionally harbor secrets hidden within. Among the most enigmatic are the statues of scribes, the revered keepers of knowledge and record keepers of a civilization that prized the written word above all. These statues, beyond their surface elegance, hold mysteries far more profound than their silent, seated forms would suggest. Imagine a scribe statue, seated cross-legged, hands poised as if to inscribe a sacred text on a scroll, eyes fixed forward in serene concentration. The artistry captures both the dignity and quiet focus of the ancient scribes, evoking their vital role in Egyptian society. But beneath the smooth contours of the stone, some of these statues conceal something unexpected. Small sealed compartments, cavities carved into the very body of the sculpture, inaccessible without deliberate intrusion. Archaeologists first stumbled upon these secret chambers during restoration and study, using delicate tools, and later more advanced imaging technologies such as X-rays and CT scans. The compartments are not uniform in size or location, some hidden within the base, others embedded in the torso or even the head. Their interiors are often empty, yet occasionally they yield fragments, small objects, inscriptions, or traces of organic material. What purpose could these sealed spaces have served? And why place such hidden features within the revered image of a scribe? The straightforward explanation might be practical. These compartments could have been meant to house sacred texts, protective amulets, or ritual items intended to safeguard the statue or imbue it with spiritual power. In a culture where the afterlife and the preservation of the soul were paramount, objects placed within statues might have been intended as eternal offerings or as symbolic vessels for the essence of the scribe's wisdom. Could these hidden spaces have been a kind of spiritual cache meant to ensure that the knowledge embodied by the statue persisted beyond death? Yet, many questions remain. If these compartments were for protective or ritual objects, why do so many remain empty? Were they looted in antiquity, or perhaps never filled in the first place? The variation in placement and design hints at a deeper complexity. Could these compartments have been used in ceremonies now lost to history, their contents only understood by a select few initiated into sacred knowledge? Or might they have served a function unrelated to religion, perhaps connected to ancient technologies or symbolic codes? The mysteries deepen when we consider the technological precision required to carve such hidden cavities without compromising the statue's structural integrity or outward appearance. The craftsmanship implies a sophisticated understanding of both form and function, blending art with secrecy. Were these hidden chambers deliberately designed to remain undiscovered, protecting their contents from desecration or theft? And if so, who were they protecting against? Mortal thieves or perhaps spiritual forces? Speculative theories invite us to look beyond the conventional. Some researchers propose that the sealed compartments could have been part of an ancient memory system, a physical archive embedded within the statues themselves. Could the statues have been more than symbolic portraits, acting as repositories of knowledge encoded in objects or materials stored inside? In a civilization that prized the written word, might these secret spaces have contained scrolls, tablets, or other records concealed from plain sight? Others suggest that the compartments might have had a role in ritual communication, a kind of sacred vessel allowing the essence of the scribe to speak or activate during ceremonies. This idea aligns with the Egyptian belief in the power of statues as living vessels for the Ka, the spiritual double of the deceased. Perhaps the hidden compartments housed items intended to animate or empower the statue in the afterlife, bridging the divide between the material and spiritual worlds. Intriguingly, some modern technologies have detected anomalies in these compartments that challenge straightforward explanations. Chemical residues, traces of unknown materials, and patterns of wear not consistent with simple storage have been reported in some cases. Could this hint at uses now beyond our full comprehension, perhaps ancient methods of preservation, symbolic chemistry, or even proto-scientific practices lost over millennia? As the investigation continues, the sealed compartments in scribe statues remain a compelling enigma. They remind us that the ancient Egyptians' mastery extended beyond visible grandeur and monumental scale, into realms of subtlety and concealment, where art, spirituality, and perhaps technology intertwined. What secrets might still lie hidden in these silent chambers? Were they mere safekeepers of simple tokens, or gateways to lost knowledge. The statues sit undisturbed, their gazes fixed in eternal contemplation, inviting us to peer beyond their surface and listen for the whispered truths they guard in quiet secrecy. Beneath the vast skies of ancient Egypt, where the Nile carved its eternal path through the desert, the sacred intertwined with the natural world in ways both profound and mysterious. Among the many enigmas that have emerged from the sands are ritual objects, forgotten relics imbued with the spirits of animals, vessels of power that hint at beliefs and practices long lost to time. Imagine entering a dimly lit chamber deep within a temple or tomb. The air is heavy with the scent of incense, and scattered about are objects carved from wood, stone, or precious metals, each bearing the likeness or essence of an animal. These are no mere decorations. They are ritual tools, talismans, and symbols carefully crafted to channel the essence of creatures revered by the ancient Egyptians. Animals played a central role in Egyptian spirituality, from the falcon god Horus to the jackal-headed Anubis, the ibis of Thoth, to the fierce lioness Sekhmet. These beings were not only divine messengers but embodiments of cosmic forces and natural cycles. But beyond the gods themselves, smaller, less conspicuous objects connected to animal spirits have been uncovered. Items once wielded in ceremonies, their precise function now clouded by the passage of millennia. Among the finds are amulets shaped like scarabs, pendants etched with serpents, and small statuettes of cats and crocodiles. Some of these objects were simple, worn by everyday people, while others reveal intricate craftsmanship, hinting at their use by priests or shamans in sacred rites. These relics serve as tangible reminders that in the ancient Egyptian worldview, animals were more than creatures of flesh and bone. They were conduits to unseen realms, carriers of protective and transformative power. The origins and exact purposes of many of these ritual objects remain elusive. Archaeologists have found them in varied contexts: burial sites, temple workshops, hidden caches, yet few inscriptions explain their use in detail. What ceremonies were these objects part of? Were they tools for healing, protection, or communication with the divine? Or did they serve as keys to unlock deeper mysteries of life and death? Consider the role of animal spirits in ancient Egyptian magic and ritual. It is documented that priests employed specific animals and their symbolic representations to invoke the presence of gods or harness cosmic forces. The rituals could have included dance, song, and offerings, with these objects acting as focal points, physical embodiments of the invisible energies they sought to summon. But beyond accepted interpretations, a shadow of uncertainty lingers. Some of these objects exhibit wear patterns and material compositions that defy easy categorization. For example, certain wooden figures show traces of substances that modern analysis struggles to identify, leading to speculation about ancient concoctions or ritualistic uses now forgotten. Others possess unusual craftsmanship techniques that suggest a knowledge of materials and symbolism lost to contemporary understanding. This opens the door to more speculative thoughts. Could these ritual objects have been part of a shamanic tradition within ancient Egypt, practices designed to facilitate communication with animal spirits on a spiritual plane? Might the objects have been used to induce altered states of consciousness, allowing priests or ritual specialists to transcend ordinary perception? Moreover, the question arises whether some of these animal-associated items held a protective function beyond the physical, guardians against unseen forces or carriers of spiritual medicine. The complex layering of animal symbolism in Egyptian religion hints at such multidimensional roles. But how deep did this knowledge go? And why was it, if so, concealed in the small, often humble objects tucked away in tombs or temple storerooms? There are also intriguing parallels with other ancient cultures, where animal totems and spirit helpers form a central part of spiritual practice. This raises broader questions about the universality of these beliefs and the possibility of shared ancient knowledge encoded in ritual artifacts. Did the Egyptians develop a unique system of animal spirit veneration, or was it part of a larger cross-cultural spiritual framework now largely obscured? While mainstream archaeology cautiously classifies these ritual objects within the wider religious practices of ancient Egypt, their precise significance continues to evade clear definition. The absence of direct textual explanations leaves a gap filled with hypothesis and wonder. As we peer into the dim corridors of time, these forgotten ritual objects whisper secrets of a world where humans and animals met not only in the physical realm but in the spiritual, where carved figures held the breath of sacred beasts, and where ritual might have bridged the seen and unseen. What truths remain locked within these silent relics? What knowledge, once alive and potent, now lies dormant beneath the sands, waiting for discovery? The mysteries embedded in these animal spirit objects invite us to ponder the depths of ancient Egyptian spirituality, urging us to listen closely to the echoes of a world where the boundaries between species, the mortal and the divine, were far more fluid than we can fully comprehend today. Beneath the endless sky where the Nile's waters have flowed for millennia, towering monuments rise from the desert sands, massive stone structures that have long captivated the imagination of the world. The great pyramids of Giza, colossal temples etched with intricate hieroglyphs, and statues carved with breathtaking precision stand as silent witnesses to an ancient civilization's grandeur. These were, by all accounts, the monuments of the gods, built to honor deities, immortalize pharaohs, and anchor the cosmic order. But who truly built these awe-inspiring works? The question, seemingly straightforward, unfolds into a complex web of mystery and wonder. For centuries, scholars have pieced together evidence pointing to the ingenuity and labor of the ancient Egyptians themselves. Artisans, architects, and thousands of workers, skilled and organized, shaped these monuments with tools fashioned from copper and stone. Archaeological finds, including workers' villages near the pyramids, reveal a society capable of immense coordinated effort. Recent discoveries of inscriptions and workers' graffiti hint at a proud professional workforce dedicated to the monumental task. Yet, even with these insights, the scale and precision of these structures raise profound questions. How did a civilization without iron tools, wheels, or modern machinery move and carve stones weighing tens of tons with such exactness? How were the giant limestone blocks quarried, transported, and assembled with millimeter accuracy? The math and engineering needed to achieve these feats, alignment with the stars, internal chambers perfectly placed, surfaces polished to a near-mirror finish, continue to baffle experts. The more we learn, the more enigmatic the story becomes. Ancient texts, while praising the divine mandate of the pharaohs, are frustratingly silent on the precise methods of construction. No detailed blueprints have survived, no step-by-step manuals. Instead, we find glimpses, fragments of knowledge buried in time. This gap in explanation has invited speculation and alternative ideas. Some propose that lost technologies, perhaps forgotten with the passage of centuries, were employed. Techniques far more advanced than currently understood. Could the Egyptians have possessed tools or knowledge that allowed them to manipulate stone with a precision that rivals modern laser cutting? What about the possibility of leveraging natural forces in ways we have yet to fully appreciate? Even more speculative are the theories that question the very identity of the builders. Were these monuments solely the work of human hands, or was there assistance from forces or beings beyond our current comprehension? Ancient legends speak of gods walking among men, teaching them secrets. Could the myths hold fragments of truth about collaborators from realms unknown? Some fringe theories suggest ancient astronauts or advanced civilizations predating the dynastic Egyptians played a role. While mainstream archaeology finds little credible evidence to support these claims, the persistence of such ideas highlights the profound awe these monuments inspire, and the limits of our understanding. Furthermore, the monuments themselves seem to contain layers of mystery that transcend architecture. Hidden chambers, unexplained cavities, and anomalies detected by modern scanning technologies hint at aspects of these structures that remain undiscovered. What lies in these secret spaces? Are they tombs, storage rooms, or something far stranger? The symbolic nature of the monuments also invites contemplation. Constructed not only as physical tombs or temples, they embody cosmological principles, aligning with celestial bodies, echoing creation myths. Were these grand designs meant to connect Earth to the heavens in ways we still do not grasp fully? If so, did the builders have knowledge of astronomy and geometry that was both practical and spiritual? This intersection of science, spirituality, and mystery frames the story of who built these monuments as more than a historical puzzle. It becomes a question about the limits of human potential, the transmission of knowledge, and the nature of legacy itself. As we stand in the shadow of these colossal stone wonders, tracing the lines carved by ancient hands, we are left to wonder: did the Egyptians possess lost wisdom, a hidden technology, or a spiritual insight now faded from memory? Were the monuments constructed solely through human effort, or is there a deeper truth veiled by time and sand? The monuments remain, silent and enduring, inviting us to keep searching, questioning, and imagining. Their builders, known and unknown, challenge us to rethink history and to ponder the ancient mysteries that still lie buried beneath the desert's shifting dunes.